Hi, James. Sorry we're late. Technical difficulties.
Facebook still hasn't told me that we're even streaming.
Really?
Said we were streaming 7 minutes ago.
Really?
31 seconds.
Huh. Well, we're going to have to...
I'll just go to the actual page.
Yeah, that's really bizarre. It's not playing in the event.
The hell?
Yeah, we are
live on the page, but not in the event.
Yes, hello. Hello, James. We are focused on getting it going. We're making it happen, Captain.
I don't know what options Facebook's going to give me at this point, but I'm trying to open the settings and see.
Okay. Well, we're waiting. I have a joke for you, James. I think. Oh, we got more people in here. Good, more people to enjoy this joke. So there's. Rob, can you mute Tricia if she's going to be like pissing on the podcast and crumpling up bottles? That wasn't the joke. That was a joke, but that wasn't the joke. The actual joke. The actual joke is there's these two cowboys, right? And they're running through the desert and they're starving. Their horses died miles ago and they couldn't eat those for whatever reason. And they've had no water and they've been in the desert for days. And on the horizon, one cowboy sees what he thinks is a tree with bacon on it. He's like, "No, man, that can't be. That's got to be a mirage." So he taps his buddy on the shoulder and he's like, "You see that tree over there?" And his buddy looks, he's like, "Oh shit, it's a bacon tree." So they start running, right? They start running. Oh, they're getting there. They're sweating, just pouring down their faces, and they're almost there, 50 feet from the tree, and then boom, hail of bullets. They're all dead. They're all dead. And as they're laying on the desert floor, bleeding out, one cowboy looks at the other one and says, "Well, partner, I guess it wasn't a bacon tree. It was a ham bush." Yeah.
Wow.
It was worth the wait, man. I'm telling you.
Anyway, so sorry about the delay. Also, sorry that when the stream started, I wasn't screen sharing and fucking playing music. I thought I was. It was only on my end. So, you know, that's fun.
I love squid.
But anyway, we figured it out. We were having technical difficulties with Zoom, surprisingly. Last time it wasn't Zoom. This time it is. Anyway, this is the current event stream for the 28th of June, 2021. Welcome. My name is Rob. I'm here.
Hey, what's up? I'm Tricia.
I'm Don.
I guess Don's not going to introduce himself.
I'm Don. I'm Don.
You sound like you had to question that for a minute and confirm with yourself. Is that a me, myself, and I conversation?
Kind of.
So before, we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week, honestly. A lot of it pertains to climate change. But before we get into all that, I'd like to ask all of you to join us on Thursday for our Revolutionary Book Club, Revolutionary Left Book Club. We are currently reading Seize the Time, the story of the Black Panther Party by Bobby Seale. We're a little over halfway through it, but I don't know, hearing these stories in their own words, I think is important. And it's been a hell of a ride so far. Of course, if you like what we're doing, you can help us materially by donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/forwearemany. Also, hello, Natalie. I did not mean to do that. You can also find us all over social media. We have 2 groups on Facebook. One is the For We Are Many mutual aid organizing group. The other is the For We Are Many education and discussion group. As well as the page, which you're probably watching this on. Unless you're listening to the podcast at a later date. But, so yeah, I guess our first segment. Actually, Tricia, do you have anything for our last Pride Month piece? I know it's kind of last minute to ask.
It is?
But...
How about you dive into the first piece you had, and we'll come back to it in a moment.
Okay.
Get some stuff pulled up here.
All right, give me just a second here. Trying to do things.
Right.
There we go. That's what I was trying to do. All right, so I guess we'll start with the why. Hold on, it's opening. That's not where I meant that to open, but that's okay. I was gonna screen share it anyway. So we're gonna start talking about the Pacific Northwest first. Oh, Shadid's entered the waiting room.
Awesome sauce.
So the Pacific Northwest is baking under a ridiculous heat wave. The previous high temperature prior to this week was in the low 90s. Their average high for the month of June is 73 degrees. And in Salem, Oregon today, it was 117 degrees. I live in Phoenix and it was only 108 today.
Right, that's unreal to have that kind of fucking heat that far north.
There was a graphic on here that I want. There we go. Well, that's not really it. But I guess that's important too. Look at these temperatures in Washington and Oregon. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Dude, scroll back down to Yakima.
What?
The yeah, right there, Yakima. Holy shit. I've trained there. That place is basically...
I mean, I literally just said that the average high is 73 degrees.
No, I know. My brain just processed the fact that Yakima Training Center in Washington State, a very high desert, is that hot. It's basically a desert. It's primarily mountainous terrain, looks a lot like Afghanistan.
So this heat wave is stretching into Northern California and as far fucking east as Idaho. That's absolutely fucking bonkers. But where the hell is the image of the heat dome? That is the whole reason that there we go. So the jet stream typically is more of a, I don't want to say a straight line because it's not a straight line, but for it to, okay, so what happens is there's a high pressure system in the center of this. So the jet stream can't push its way down, bringing cooler temperatures south. So this high temperature, and the way that this is shaped, it just sucks hot air into that. And then it's trapped there under a dome of high air pressure.
As a completely uneducated human being when it comes to meteorology, I really wish, A, we had Mark Gross on here so he could explain it to me better. But what would happen in theory if the jet stream just went and closed off that little spot down at the bottom of that picture there, and the high pressure system just got sucked north?
Isn't that a wicked El Nino?
That might be a wicked El Nino.
Well, okay, so basically, I'm not an expert either, but I think that the jet stream would have to push that high pressure system south.
Okay. That makes sense. Like I said, I don't know anything about meteorology. I know what kind of clouds are rain and what kind of clouds are snow.
But I think it's important to look at where the center of this is, because we're talking about Washington State, which is in the dark red, but the center of it, which is purple, is in Canada.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to look at where the center of this is, because we're talking about Washington State, which is...
Kind of losing your audio, Rob.
I just heard an echo from
there you go.
somewhere, and
I was coming from my headphones that are around my throat.
I
Yeah.
was like, why is that happening?
I had to leave the stream for a second. Go look at some other stuff. Less important.
So James said wowzers. Austin said, damn, that's crazy. Natalie said, I saw something about the heat burning Comcast cables. Not sure if true or not. I haven't seen anything about that, but that doesn't mean anything. Austin said he could see that happening. James said it was 92 in West Virginia today, and we used to have 4 seasons. Now you have 2. Really cold and hot as shit. Austin, you are correct in hearing that Florida is preparing for a tropical storm. We'll be talking about that too. I don't know that that necessarily needs to go in climate change, because right now it's not showing to be anything out of the ordinary, other than the fact that we already have our 4th named storm, and we're 2 weeks into hurricane season. So yeah, let me pull some of this up now that we've talked about the heat dome. How did I scroll back to April? That's funny. Okay, so we'll also be talking about robot cops. That's not going to be in climate change. And Facebook, not having to do anything as a result of the FTC hearing and the antitrust front. So that's disappointing. Also, Austin, it's not Florida for the tropical storm. It's South Carolina and Georgia. I should probably check on the old man. We'll also be talking about the flooding in Metro Detroit. We'll be talking about the so-called labor shortage. We'll be talking about Dragon Man. And finally, I found what I was looking for, at least. Canada set a record temperature of 116 degrees. That's not the whole story. I'm just working on getting this, at least having the pieces for this segment opened,
I got you.
We're also going to be talking about, and this will be under climate change, the building collapse in Miami. Since the finger is being pointed at rising sea levels as a partial reason for the collapse. Also, residents were told it was safe despite major structural damage. There was an inspector there the fucking day before it collapsed, and it wasn't evacuated. So yeah, we'll be talking about that in more detail, and I think that's it. Okay, so I will go back to Canada reaching 116 degrees, which I don't think anywhere in Canada has ever hit 116 degrees. I could be wrong on that.
At
but-
least in this age of the Earth.
Well, yeah, but it would have been significantly closer to the equator before the Ice Age.
Well, no. And what I was talking about wasn't even like...
Okay, you can't just say no. If you're going to cut me off to say no, at least explain your no.
That's what I'm in the process of doing. I wasn't talking about when this was Pangea or any of those phases of the Earth. I'm talking about right at the end of the last ice age when a comet impacted Canada, causing the entire North American continent to catch on fire. I'm sorry that I cut you off. I'll mute myself now.
Anyway, the small village of Lytton, British Columbia, hit 116 degrees yesterday afternoon. To put that in perspective, over 1,000 miles to the south, where I am, the high on Sunday was 113 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona. It was hotter in Lytton, Canada than it's ever been in Colorado. That's absolutely crazy. So, and then the next thing I wanted to talk about is kind of an international thing. Well, not kind of, it is straight up an international thing. Courts are setting for a rise in compensation cases due to climate change. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the state is preparing to be sued for climate change rather than take steps to prevent or lessen climate change.
I had to unmute my mic again. But yeah, that sounds super fucking productive.
Yeah.
Like, this is shit we've known about for fucking decades.
Yeah. British ministers are urging the public to eat less meat, which I'm not saying that I disagree with that, but for them to be like, oh, you guys can fucking take action against climate change, like we even hold a candle in the wind to fossil fuel companies or any military, especially our own. The largest polluter in, it doesn't matter if we're talking about chemical contamination or if we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions, the biggest polluter in the world is the United States military and always has been.
Yep, does no good to take other measures and not take some with that too. Like, you know, the going green concept needs to be across the fucking board.
Well,
not just,
and green capitalism isn't going to do it because it'll be too
right.
incremental. It'll be too small of changes, and it's not going to actually change the outcome.
Right. It's like these lawsuits aren't going to do any fucking good unless 100% of the money taken from the lawsuits is being invested into actually cleaning up some of their fucking mess.
There is a Peruvian farmer who has an open case against the German energy giant RWE. This case has been ongoing since 2014. The farmer claims that rising temperatures are melting a glacier, threatening his home in Peru, in the west of Peru, with flooding. The farmer has spent thousands of dollars trying to, curb the flooding, and he's had very little success with that. His case for compensation of around $17,000, seriously, 17 grand, was based on RWE being responsible for about 0.5% of global warming. While many experts believe the case was weak in 2017, the courts in Germany recognized that there was merit to the questions that the farmer was raising. But like, this is what the capitalist system is preparing for. Paying people off rather than fixing anything.
Of course, it's easier and cheaper. Can't we just put a Band-Aid on each one of these fucking wounds every time? Fuck if they need surgery.
So I guess the next thing that we can talk about is probably the building collapse in Miami. So an engineer warned back in 2018 that there was evidence of, quote, major structural damage below the pool deck. Still, residents were told the building was, quote, not in bad shape. Officials assured residents of the Miami Beach area condo that collapsed last week that their building was safe, despite a report that strongly indicated otherwise, while also disregarding residents' concerns that nearby construction might compromise the stability of the high-rise. The official death toll in this collapse has climbed to 11, and the number of unaccounted for only fell to 150 on Monday. That's today. There is still 150 people missing in that rubble, and I hate to be like a pessimist, but the odds are not good. At this point, they are going on their third day without water. I don't know how hot it is in Miami right now, but I'm sure it's not cool.
That's a thing. Even if the company that owns the building is held accountable, like, you know, for damages, it doesn't bring them back. Yeah, they should have evacuated the building. They knew that this shit was gonna fucking collapse.
They knew
hey, Shadi.
3 years ago.
Right.
And then they outright lied to the residents in a meeting that same year, saying that the building was not in bad shape.
The high in Miami today was 84.
I mean, 84 degrees and muggy. I really hope, and I also want to say that the firefighters that are, you know, leading this rescue effort, I can't even imagine to be in their shoes, being in full gear. You know, it's mid-80s, it's humid, and they're crawling through, in some cases, through burning rubble trying to find people. There was a guy, I think it was yesterday, it was either yesterday or today, that fell like 50 feet because he was in the structure that was still standing, and he fell through the floor, if I understood that correctly. Yeah, so on top of so an engineer warns that there was major structural damage, and then a month later they lie to the residents and say the building's in good shape. This building was built in 1981, was undergoing a roof replacement to be in compliance with the report. And it, like, the damage that this engineer was talking about wasn't even on the roof. It was at the structural supports. So they had heavy equipment on the roof of a structurally compromised building, knowingly.
That's negligence right there.
The number of people who have been accounted for has increased to 136, so there's still more people missing than have been found. That includes the death toll of 11. So 125 survivors were found. So far, 11 that were killed in the collapse have been found.
And honestly, that's just people who are documented on the lease. That's not counting if anybody in the building had guests over, or if there was anybody else staying there that isn't necessarily on the lease, like kids.
Well, I mean, according to the policy, they were supposed to, any extended guests or kids, things like that, would be listed on the lease as occupants, not as leaseholders. So, I mean, that's still probably not updated every time somebody moves in or out, or every time somebody has a baby.
That, and if somebody just happened to have somebody over for lunch or something, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, I doubt they would be over for lunch at 8 a.m., but I mean.
Oh, I didn't remember what time it collapsed, but still.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, you know, if somebody had come over and had a few drinks the night before and then they wake up to the building collapsing around them, imagine that. Like,
right.
What the fuck? And, okay, so, like, I don't have the article pulled up, so I'm kind of free-forming this one a little bit. But I was reading an article 2 days ago that was talking about potential reasons for the collapse. And there was 3 different people that said the most likely thing is because it's built on limestone, which is porous and water will seep through it, that water from rising sea levels had seeped into the foundation and caused it to become unsound. You know, even reinforced concrete versus water, the water is going to win every single time.
Right.
Unless it's properly maintained, which it wasn't.
Dude, when they found out about this issue, they should have immediately covered the cost of relocating everyone who lived in that fucking building.
Yeah, instead the Red Cross is doing it, which, I mean, congratulations for them, but like that should have been on the property owners straight the fuck up.
Right. When they got word of it, not fucking after the building collapses. They should have done this. If they had any fucking regard for those people's lives, they would have done this when they found out about it.
And, you know, and now they're saying that the South Tower, or I mean, sorry, the North Tower is just fine.
If they're built at the same time, have the same type of structures, and are getting the same type of exposure to that fucking water, no.
The North Tower is a little further away from the ocean, but it's built on the same giant slab of limestone. And it was literally built with the same blueprints.
So they're identical.
Yeah. They were built about 2 years apart. The North Tower, I think, was completed in 1983 instead of 1981.
But still.
Right.
If they haven't been properly maintained, that's a lot of wear and tear. If I lived in that building, I'd be getting the fuck out.
An attorney for a law firm that has worked for the resident-led condominium association since 1993 said Monday that, quote, our focus is on the recovery efforts. There are still 150 people unaccounted for, and the window of opportunity to find them alive is closing. There's a more appropriate time to unravel what happened and why. But she pointed out that engineers are looking at whether construction of a high-rise literally next door played any sort of role in destabilizing the building, which if they were digging into the limestone, I can only imagine that it would prey on the damage that was already done.
Certainly ain't gonna help. I just saw Shadid's got the little hand raised icon.
Oh, dude, go ahead, man. I'm not always looking at this screen.
And your mic is still on mute.
There we go. Is this a perfect time to sell hempcrete?
Yes. Yes, it is. We've talked about hempcrete a couple of times on the show, but if you want to... Okay, so like, here's the thing. Hempcrete is actually becoming more readily available, more mass-produced. They're making it in pre-cured blocks. You can buy it in pre-cured blocks, and you can build your house out of it in a couple of days without skilled labor. Like, you and your friends can build a house in a couple of days, literally. and it's about the same price point as traditional concrete.
And it basically hardens into stone over time.
And it also has a negative carbon footprint.
Right.
My understanding is that hempcrete breathes, so moisture shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. I've seen them say the same thing in YouTube videos I've seen where they were building houses out of hempcrete and showing how easy it is. But that's one thing they commented on, that they'll never have a problem with moisture damage because of just how much breathability that actually has in comparison to concrete.
There is a whole lot of comments.
Yeah. All right. Let's catch up with them.
James said, check the Googler. I'm not sure what that was to. I think I was checking the Googler probably when he typed that. Anyway, I hope Canada had, Natalie said, I hope Canada had warnings out on heat stroke as the people would not be used to seeing health consequences for heat stroke and dehydration, both of which can kill. And
Right.
apparently some organizations in the Pacific Northwest reached out to some officials here in Phoenix to be like, hey, what the fuck do we do? It's 116 degrees.
Drink lots of water.
Drink
Make
lots
sure
of
you get your
water.
electrolytes.
Absolutely. Don't be
Electrolytes
afraid to
are what the
like dip
humans
in the
crave.
bathtub for a minute. Don't be afraid to sit in front of a fan, especially if it's humid.
Cool showers. Definitely bring your body temp down.
Natalie, this is referring to Miami. Natalie said they are dead most likely. It's been since Thursday. Okay, so it's 4 days without water. Yeah, they probably have perished at this point. But that doesn't mean they should give up the efforts because the human body can be very, very resilient. Austin said that company should be no more. I cannot stress that a fucking enough. Natalie pointed out severe dehydration can cause brain and organ damage in that amount of time, which is also very true. Austin said we need an overhaul in a lot of America, but money always wins out and the government and companies don't want to put a little in to take care of the people. I think that's why we need to show that we don't fucking need them.
Right. They're not doing the shit that we would want them to do with our tax dollars.
Natalie said the roof had to do with a possible long-term leak going into the wall structures and weakening them was a first thought of the investigation. Some think I wish I hadn't heard because of something going on here. I mean, I've heard a few different possibilities in terms of water damage, but whether it was coming from the top or the bottom really is irrelevant. They knew about the damage and didn't fucking fix it in time and lied to the residents in the meantime. Austin said, so the people in the North Tower, the people in the North Tower will have a couple of years before it will collapse. Fucking greedy bastards. And now we're caught up. So the only other thing, does anybody have anything to throw out about that fucking situation? Because like, I mean, really, I don't even know what to say about it. I'm just like, are you fucking serious?
I think they should be held not just financially responsible for those deaths, but like legally, criminally. That's negligence that caused death. Those motherfuckers belong in jail. And yeah, their corporation should be shut the fuck down. Anybody who had any knowledge of that and chose to hide it instead of taking action is criminally responsible. They need to be held such. They want to pretend like corporations are people when it comes time to bribing fucking politicians. Let's treat them like people when it comes to responsibility for lives lost.
So I have a question. Was this place, was it a property management group? Was these privately owned units in there, or was it an apartment complex? Sorry.
Oh, you're good, dude. It's a condominium complex. So the average price is about $275,000 for each of these condos. And
Okay, let me ask this. Did it have an HOA?
it had a condominium association.
Okay. Condominium, I'm not too familiar with what the fuck that is, but
It's
is
the
it
same
like
thing. Yeah, it's the same thing, just particular to condominiums instead of houses.
Okay, all right. Understood. So, but there is a property management group that's in control of like managing the property and
Yeah. When
you know what?
people move out, they take them into possession and sell them to other people. Like
Okay.
So they've made millions of dollars off of this building.
Yeah. But they will also be responsible for things on the maintenance side as well, right?
Which they've obviously failed at, but yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it should be an eye opener for America. One, that these fucking property groups all across the fucking country are slumlords. It ain't just that motherfucking building that collapsed. It's the fucking apartment complex I stay in. It's the one my friends stay in. You know what I mean? And then they have the nerve to keep increasing the price of living in these motherfuckers. Oh, you want to paint the wall half blue, half white, throw up a fucking couple of gates and shit. But you don't want to come in here and fix my motherfucking door. I had a disassembled shower when I moved. Bro, it was shit in my apartment when I moved in. And I paid an administration fee. You know what I mean? And it's like, what in the fuck did you administer? You absolutely didn't make sure my fucking apartment was clean. The fuck am I paying for?
Right.
So then we had these fucking cold fronts that came through Denver. You know what I mean? -0 temperatures. Bro, I got a fucking fireplace going, plenty of fucking wood. I got the heater on. Look, this is my heater over here. I got these old radiator style heaters on the floor. My camera sucks when it comes to light, but hold on. I do got a lamp. Okay. Anyways, I couldn't even maintain going above 65 degrees with the heat running, the fireplace. And you know what I had to do? I had to put plastic on all these old ass motherfucking windows in here because there's a super major air leak. And I had
I have that same problem.
Yeah, I had a super fucking expensive electricity bill when it was all said and done. And then they want to charge me for electricity in the motherfucking hallway. Like, bitch, I don't live in a hallway. The fuck is wrong with you?
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Man, let me show you this motherfucking shower. It's still in the same condition. I put in work order after work order. Well, let me turn on the light. I just want to. So, one of these glass doors actually broke because this is not really put together. I just assembled this shit like this so I can use the fucking shower and not have water everywhere. But they never, look, bro, I've been in here since November. They never came in and assembled this motherfucking shower.
Wow.
I got motherfucking closet doors. Look, I used to have a closet door right here in the goddamn hallway. There used to be a closet door right there. The motherfucker was so flimsy, it just finally just fell all the way the fuck out of there. So I threw it away.
Damn.
And obviously security here sucks. You know what I mean? You already know my incident. People just in the fucking garage shopping and shit.
Wow.
Well, I'm aware. I didn't tell the guys about that, but
Yeah, man. So I recently stuck at home. Somehow a guy managed to get into a garage where you're supposed to have like a garage door button opener or whatever. And yeah, so I go look at the video footage because luckily there's a fucking camera in the garage. But there's a Spanish guy walking around. He's even pushing his bike like he's just going through the motherfucking grocery store. All right. Gets to my car. I left my fucking sunroof open on my BMW X3. Dude jumped through the fucking ceiling and just take whatever he can. Colognes, fucking little cheap ass sunglasses. I had a sunglass case to some glasses I lost. He even took that. Matsunaga. Just took all kind of miscellaneous, my fucking Bluetooth module. You know what I mean? And the fucking garage doors is always open. And there's supposed to be security here. I've never seen the motherfuckers.
Wow.
And then somebody's been coming in and out. So I was gone on a fucking party mission for about a month. And bro, I come back and I got so much shit missing out my apartment. These motherfuckers even stole my socks, my hairbrush. Who in the fuck come breaks in somebody's apartment and steal a hairbrush?
Yeah, dude.
And
None
there's
of
no
it.
signs of force. Look, this the kicker. There's no signs of forced entry. It's like my shit just unlocked the door and left, and locked the door behind itself.
If
So
they had that
just
shit being properly managed and some motherfucking security up in there, none of that shit would be happening.
look,
But they can't
look,
even have
it
a
was
fucking
motherfucker
maintenance
just a
man
few
come do
days
some-
ago. A dude just a few days ago was killed right outside the fucking apartment building in front of other apartment buildings where other motherfuckers could see the shit.
Wow.
This was a building away from me. You know what I mean? So when just it goes to point out if security was around, that shit could have been deterred. Who in the fuck is going to, feel comfortable carrying out any action like that if they know they're being surveilled or there's somebody who can respond like very close by?
Right.
So I think there needs to be a motherfucking there needs to be a property management policing going on to make sure some type of quality control over these property management groups. They need to be audited. They need to be in touch with the motherfucking residents. There needs to be some type of enforcement nationwide. Just my opinion.
I agree with you. There's too many that are getting away with some scandalous ass shit. I don't know if you heard, but not too long ago, the property that was over on Sunset, that was all apartments, right there by GMI, that one got shut down because they had no heat and no water to their apartments in the middle of fucking winter. Another property owned by that same company had multiple buildings get burned down, including the one that my ex-sister-in-law lived in. There was another property that they owned that also got shut down, like apartment complex after another, just all in a row. And these guys are out of Florida, so they're not even a management company that the people up here in Michigan could even get directly in contact with to deal with any of this shit. Left the city of Flint no choice but to just close the complexes due to neglect. Now there's all them people, out of a home because some basic fucking maintenance wasn't being handled. Hell, at the complex where multiple buildings burned down over off Richfield Road, even their dumpsters were just not being emptied at all. There was trash overflowing out of them, filling the motherfucking parking lot. Like, that's a safety hazard. That shit's still standing there, fucking burnt the fuck out, causing a safety hazard to the community. Who knows how fucking long it'll take to at least get the shit properly torn down, and the property cleared out. But it's a shame that, there's little that, the city of Flint or even the state of Michigan might be able to do when it's likely an LLC, as far as how they're listed. Most, I haven't looked into it, but most property management companies are limited liability corporations for that specific reason, because they can be like, oh, well, we're detached from the situation. So, we can claim ourselves to only be partly responsible because we just weren't aware. And it's like, you didn't have proper management going on from top to bottom. It doesn't matter if you're out of state, you should still be keeping apprised of what's going on with your properties and making sure that the shit is actually maintained and safe surroundings for the people who live there. That's your responsibility, you know? I've worked in private real estate management and stuff and investing, and there's no fucking way that, you know, if I was getting reports back from any of my residents saying, hey, there's something up with this property, there's no way I would just let that shit slide like, fuck it. No, we put shit on our properties as far as the warranty goes to make sure that anything that goes wrong with the property, all they got to do is call and somebody will come out and fix whatever it is. That's something that should be required of anybody who is operating with rentals. You should be required to only have so many days within which to respond with somebody coming out there to actually repair the property. You know, if it's a situation like that one in Miami, no, you have a responsibility to move everybody out and fix the structure because that's just dangerous. You know, this shit shouldn't be allowed to slide. There's no excuse for there not being some type of oversight group being notified of this is what's going on with these properties.
So here's my thing, right? Like the common narrative is that communist housing plans are so terrible, right? Because they're just ugly buildings and you know, they're lackluster and they're small, especially in China, they're very small. But like, isn't that still better than being out on the streets, especially when it's 116 degrees in Oregon?
Right. Absolutely. And at least if it was housing like that, then it's being fucking monitored and maintained. And that's still better than your building collapsing the fuck out from under you.
Calvin showed up in the comments. Actually, there's quite a few comments again. Natalie said our bills are double here since Texas, and why the hell are they? It's Central Illinois. Conglomerates of energy on RTP hourly, usually the cheaper option unless it goes to high or low in temperatures. Do they have like a fixed rate plan there, or is it completely privatized like it is in Texas? Natalie also said they got a key, referring to Shadid's incident. And James is like, your socks? Yes.
Right.
His socks.
And yeah, that does sound like somebody who works there who has like the master keys fucking, you know, collaborated with whoever broke in. Like, here, just walk right on in, help yourself. He's out of town, fuck it.
The other thing that we were going to talk about in climate change was tropical storm. Is it Danny? I think it's Danny. Yeah, it's Danny. That is the fourth named storm in less than 2 weeks of hurricane season. It made landfall in South Carolina just hours after it formed.
Yeah. Moving quick.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll play this video in a second, but I need to screen share first. But that was so loud in my fucking ear.
Same.
So I'm going to turn this down.
Hurt with my earbuds in. Yeah, thank you.
Blinding rain and fierce winds made for some really tough driving as Tropical Storm Danny moved inland. This is just one example from Hardyville, South Carolina. The storm also created quite a bit of lightning. Now, Tropical Storm Danny became the fourth named storm of the 2021 hurricane season shortly after 3 o'clock Monday, and then less than 5 hours later, it made landfall in Pritchard's Island, which is just to the north of Hilton Head, South Carolina, with estimated sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. It is expected to dissipate on Tuesday after bringing some localized heavy rainfall across the southeast, which could indeed lead to some flash flooding. And if you're vacationing at the coast, anywhere from Nags Head to south of Savannah, just do a double check before heading into the water on Tuesday. So again, certainly not a long lifespan on this one. Thankfully, Danny wasn't able to undergo any major intensification due to its battle with upper level winds. We do want to show you the rainfall, some of the heftier totals at the Georgia and South Carolina border. Again, Tropical Storm Danny officially the fourth named storm of Atlantic hurricane season 2021.
Now, I guess the fact that it's the fourth named storm is really the big thing here. Obviously, the damage isn't going to be terrible. Actually, we've seen worse rain damage in Michigan in the last week, which I almost forgot to talk about.
Right. Roads are flooded out in Detroit. They were canceling flights and everything. Yeah, it's that. We had, I'm not sure if anything ended up touching down. I couldn't find any feedback on that from anybody who was over there, but we had a couple of tornado warnings the other night and like flash flood rain levels. Damn, that's insane.
The authorities, the Michigan Department of Transportation, was talking about how they're trying to wrestle with how they're even going to handle, literally hundreds of abandoned vehicles on the freeway.
Right. And this is not the first time this has happened. Every time that we get like flash flood rains like that, these roads in Detroit fucking flood because they're so low lying.
Specifically I-94 and 696. They both have pumping systems that haven't been maintained in decades. And it just turns into a lake because it's low lying, and Michigan is a swamp, if you're not familiar.
Right, that was not very wise planning on their part, the way they did those roads.
That is insane. Like, look how deep that shit is, you guys. And here is the thing. There is still a shit ton of power outages. The freeway is still flooded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at another wave of thunderstorms.
Yeah, it's not supposed to stop storming for quite a few more days.
Is this video gonna actually play? No. Okay. Well, I guess we don't get to see the weather radar. They're like, no, fuck you. And I'm like, damn, okay.
Try AccuWeather. Usually their live feed for the radar will.
Right, yeah. I mean, the only reason that I was going through that is because I was already on the website.
Right, it was right there. It just don't want to load. Maybe AccuWeather. Who knows? Ow. Don't mind me over here stretching.
Really, you gotta ask me if I'm...
Huh?
Sorry if anybody listening may be from Detroit, Alabama, but to me, there will only be one Detroit. Tomorrow's weather forecast is 88 degrees with a real feel of 95 and thunderstorms.
Nice and muggy.
So this is still loading. I'll screen share when it is actually going, but we're going to take a look at the radar. The point is even though it is a fairly frequent occurrence, though, for it to be flooded up to the overpass is pretty unprecedented. Usually it's a few feet, and that's still enough to stop cars and fuck everything up. But I mean, this like literally submerged semis.
Yeah. This was some deep water that the last time I recall seeing the floodwaters get that deep down there on like I-94 and 96 was a few years ago. I mean, for it to flood is normal because they built it wrong, but you know, we're getting a lot more of that type of shit. Like, you know, last year in Midland with the dams breaking, and you know, there's combinations going on here of not only the climate change, but the poorly kept infrastructure that
It's
keeps
coming
failing
back to
us.
bite us in the ass. And both parties are complicit. Don't think you can vote your way out of this.
All right. You really can't. Not if you're voting for a Republican or a Democrat anyway.
Right. All right, so this finally finished loading. I'm finally going to screen share this radar.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm not sure what's going on, but your face hasn't moved in a few minutes, Rob.
Really?
You froze. Yeah.
Huh,
So I don't know if that's
weird
just on
because
my end.
your
Huh?
video's still moving. When you're talking, I see it in real time and shit.
Yeah.
I think I am bogging
I
down
can
my
still-
computer pretty hard, though. I'm going to turn off the music for a minute.
Man, I have not taken a walk in so long. Oh my God.
Beautiful out there today.
How tired I feel, which means I have gotten super lazy. And I think that guy who broke in my car might have did me a favor.
All right, you're getting outside and actually enjoying some of that sunshine. That looks beautiful out there.
I am still having technical difficulties. I don't know if you can even hear me at this point. Okay.
Your audio's coming through.
Well, that's good. But yeah, my shit is straight up frozen.
Shit.
Well,
yeah, your face still hasn't moved.
Zoom specifically is frozen. Everything else is working fine.
Huh. I can't tell if Don's frozen or if he's just sitting very, very still. I still see Shadid's, video moving though.
I'm not frozen.
I didn't think you were. I figured you were being a smart ass.
No, you're thinking too far into it. I'm just not moving. Don't really have much to say.
Thought you were finding it amusing that he's frozen and just sitting there like.
How's it going? Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still. Nope.
Nope.
Or we're still live. We're just not recording. Now we're recording.
Oh,
and I
God.
can see your face moving again.
I don't know what happened there, but I appear to be back, so that's good. Anyway, to show you this radar that I was trying to show you guys a little bit ago, it's just a small little baby, like, rain band. But considering that Metro Detroit has already gotten 7 inches of rain in certain areas this week, man.
Right. Like, but if you were to actually zoom in, you'd see that a lot of those are covering more than just even downtown
yeah.
Detroit. Yeah. They look tiny in the grand scheme of things against a map of the whole fucking country, but
Well, this is
yeah.
closer to the whole country now, but it was less than half the country before I zoomed out.
I know.
But I wanted to show these massive weather patterns that are happening right now. I am willing to bet that Detroit is not the only place with flooding.
No.
I mean, granted, you see up here in Canada, that's probably largely uninhabited or indigenous area. So there wouldn't be news coverage coming out of there. What is the impact of these rains up here and up here going to be on dam systems in northern Michigan, in lower Minnesota, in northern Illinois? What is going to happen with the infrastructure in these places? Like, I mean, I don't mean just this storm, but I mean with precipitation levels being off the charts, like they are in places like, Oklahoma City and Detroit. I'm sure that's not isolated incidents.
No, and the thing is, if you zoom out even further, you can see how it's being fed. I was watching this the other day, and I'm not sure what it's turned into after hitting land, but there was a huge rotation that looked like a tropical storm, either developing or already in action, that was on the west coast of Mexico the other night.
I heard about it, actually.
That was feeding all of that moisture coming up, going northeast across the United States. And I think that high pressure system that we were talking about earlier, that is like
that is currently
Mexico,
it's parked
right
in this
there.
big, big open area where there's not a fucking raindrop in sight. Oh,
It's
everywhere else is fucking raining.
Right. But yeah, all of those bands of moisture just keep moving right into there and feeding right against that curvature there that's coming off of where that high pressure system is sitting.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, can we just get a break from the rain, please?
I mean, this is going to sound rude, but speak for yourself, man. I'm in Phoenix.
Right. Well, if we could send some your way, that'd be great. But it's been raining for like 2 fucking weeks straight here, bro.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, you see all of this, but you see this?
Yeah. That's what blew over us the other day and fucking fucked us. That huge mess. Yeah.
That was all those thunderstorms and all that flooding, was this big system that is still struggling to load, over east of fucking Nova Scotia.
It's so big.
Nova Scotia, did I get that right?
I think so. It's so big that it was massive rainfall across the majority of Michigan for that whole mess, fucking slowly moving on through.
Even where it was light.
Fucking ridiculous.
Even where it was light, like meaning northern Michigan, where the rain was light in that storm system, was still 2.5 to 3 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of fucking water.
That's about how much we were getting on the daily in the Flint area, and it was even heavier, I think, down in Detroit.
The city of Detroit actually only got about 5 inches of rain, but Metro Detroit, there was areas that got, like 7, 8, 9 inches, which is also about what the general Flint area got.
The roads in Flint aren't built as stupidly as in Detroit, though. We don't have too many that are dipping down, like there's
the only one that does
areas.
I was gonna say the only one that does, to my knowledge, is 475, but that's only a small chunk of it.
Yeah. And to be fair, I've never found that one flooded. Like you might get a little bit of water where you might tread water, but it must have decent drainage down there. And there's part of Fenton Road that dips down where the railroad crossing is at. That part might have been fucked the other night and unable to pass through, but for the most part, you know, they're a hell of a lot better than Detroit as far as that goes. You know, those severely low-lying roads just gathering all of that fucking rainfall is not smart. It's not smart planning at all.
So the good news is when I Googled Michigan rivers flooding, it's all about last May.
Goodness gracious. Like the pool almost overflowed. I'm sure there's some rivers having some issues right now.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's not like the Tittabawassee is fucking flowing over dams, and it's not like the Rifle River is flowing over bridges. Luckily, it has not gotten to that point, but that's because it's been a drought since last time it rained that fucking hard.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of overgeneralizing. Not the entire state was in drought conditions, but most of the state was.
I'm kind of curious to see what the areas look like going through Midland where the dams had broke last year.
Well, I would tend to think that with the river being at its natural stage, it wouldn't even come close to filling the reservoirs.
Right. That's what I'm curious about.
I mean,
If that's-
frankly, I think that needs to happen anyway. I don't think they should rebuild the dams that have flooded. There are other ways to harness hydroelectric power that are more efficient and less destructive to the environment.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, the dams were necessary when they were built in the 20s and 30s, and it's not
That
so
was the best they
necessary.
could do then. Right.
Right.
As 100 years ago. It's just a matter of getting people to actually vote for those millages to pass for the funding. Like, yeah, we'd like to update our infrastructure. So many people are, you know, worried about, oh my God, if I have to pay more taxes, and it's like, that's kind of the point of them to at least take care of the fucking infrastructure. You know, we can't just let shit keep crumbling around us and be like, oh fuck, more loss of life. Nah.
So, Shadid, I know you're going for a walk and all, but I know that you guys were under this last heat wave. If you want to talk about...
yeah, it was pretty fucking hot. And I don't even know what the temps was. I know we was triple digits for a sec, but all I could tell you is when it's fucking hot.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I don't have a thermostat anywhere in my home. Oh, yes, I do, but I'm never in there. So I just couldn't tell you, buddy, what fucking temp it was. During that heat wave, I was actually over a friend's house not too far away. And just never knew what temp it was. And those fuckers didn't have AC. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask, is what the kind of like energy infrastructure there is like. Like, do most people have air conditioning or no?
No, I didn't catch the end of that.
Oh, do most people there have air conditioning, or is it like a luxury?
Oh, yeah, most do. It's not too many places that don't. So I do have a friend out in DTC, Denver Tech Center, and he's renting a condominium there, and he hasn't had fucking AC in that unit for over 13 years.
Wow.
I said,
How the hell
what
does he
the
do
fuck
it?
is wrong with you, my guy? Because I would have been got on the landlord and said, hey, let's work out some arrangement. I'm going to buy the fucking AC. You just knock it off the rent. But yeah,
Right.
it was hot
Something.
as hell over his house. Yes.
Anybody else have anything they want to talk about for climate change, or should we move on to U.S. politics?
Hey, just speaking of climate, is there a lot of solar out your way?
There's a lot of solar and wind out here, but there has been a very big push for solar because there's shit tons of unused land in the desert.
Okay.
So, slap out some fucking solar panels. The thing is I can't speak for everybody. Obviously, I can only really refer to where I'm at. The power company will offer you, or will put solar panels on your house for free and then give you a discount on the power. You don't get free power for turning the fucking meter backwards.
Oh, so they're still trying to keep their foot in the game.
Yeah.
Look,
I mean, don't get me
hanging by
wrong.
a thread, dude. It's about to be over for the bitches. I'll say, man, next decade, they better find a new hustle in this motherfucker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I fucking got a $400 electricity bill now I need to take care of. And I said, you know what? You motherfuckers lucky I live in an apartment. Because if there was a house, it'd be full of solar, baby.
Right. Shit. Honestly, you could get some of the portable panels and put them bitches right out on your balcony and use that to power most of your shit and only ever have to use the grid power for kicking a light on.
Yeah, I probably could. Let me see, because if I'm not mistaken, no. Wait a minute. Yes, I could. I'm facing the southern sky. But so if you see, it's a bunch of shit. But I still get some light, just not a lot. Depends on what time of the day it is. So here's our security thing. This is what people need to fucking get in a unit. So how in the fuck is the bike shopping car thief getting in this motherfucker? I don't know.
Somebody gave him the code.
Yeah. No, sometimes these side doors be open. These are supposed to be exit only. But a lot of times people will put shit in between it. Sometimes keep it propped open with a rock. So it gives them access to the building. Once they're in, they can get in the garage. And it's stupid because I can guarantee you, it's the motherfuckers that don't have a vehicle that's doing that stupid shit. They ain't got no vehicle in the garage that they trying to keep safe. You know what I mean? So they just fuck everybody else. Because the motherfuckers who really trying to secure their shit ain't gonna leave that fucking side door open.
Right. Some fucking negligent shit.
Yeah, man, motherfuckers. Like I said, man, something needs to come down on property management groups across the whole fucking nation. I had a fucking job interview coming up. Luckily, it's a goddamn phone interview, and I don't need my car. But what if these motherfuckers decide to hire me? That means I need my fucking car. You know what I mean? Which means that
Right.
I'm gonna have to fix the shit anyway it go. But I just need to talk to a fucking BMW mechanic before I start ordering parts.
Makes sense.
So that was my climate, and I'm signing off, buddy. Mike is all yours.
Right on. We're gonna move into U.S. politics then.
Right on.
So man, there's some dystopian shit going down in the U.S. lately. And last week we talked about Biden's domestic terrorism plan more than once. But I don't know, man. I'm just gonna screen share real quick to show you the fucking headline. This pretty much says all you fucking need to know. Like, they know these fucking security robots don't do shit. Hence, with few tangible results, but they're doing it anyway. Fucking why? Who thought? Has nobody watched the fucking Terminator?
Or RoboCop.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
we don't
that's
even
the
have
first thing
AI
I
to
thought
that
of
point.
was RoboCop. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that shit filmed in Detroit, or at least supposed to have been in motherfucking Detroit?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, it just is
But yeah, man.
astonishing to me after watching that as like a sci-fi, fantasy movie as a kid and shit. Like, this is some pretend shit. This would never really happen. Now we've really got dumbass motherfuckers trying to be like, yeah, RoboCop sounds great. What?
So hold on. Listen to the fucking first paragraph in this news article. When the Westland Real Estate Group bought Liberty Village, a sprawling 1,000-unit apartment complex on the northeastern edge of Las Vegas nearly 2 years ago, the police department identified as one of the city's most frequent sources of 911 calls. So basically, the spokeswoman for the city is saying there was a lot of gang activity and drugs and prostitutions and dogfighting rings and gun rings and drive-by shootings and robberies and assaults. That's literally the quoted list. I mean, I'm willing to bet that it wasn't nearly as bad as they're making it sound, but they're trying to justify putting drones in your fucking neighborhood.
Oh my God. And that just feels very Big Brother. That's very 1984, very Orwellian shit of like, just get used to, walking around minding your business and boo, like here comes the camera to check you out. Like, who are you and why are you here? Fucking, what the hell?
Man, you could just from. So when I watch sci-fi movies, I'm always looking around the corner for that shit to just be invented, created, manufactured. I just know it's not too far away.
Right.
And
Anyway,
see, then
now
another thing is
Go
that
ahead.
when these guys research and write their stories, there's this thing called checks and balances in filmmaking and in creating a story, is that you can be imaginative, but it still has to be close to reality to capture the viewer's mind. So just know, like, all the technologies we see in Hollywood is eventually gonna hit the fucking stage. For real, for real.
Right, like the stuff that you see being used, here's this clear fucking screen popping up that people are doing all their computer shit and fucking projecting holograms from. That's real shit. It's being made by Corning Glass. Before you know it, you're going to have tabletops that are Corning Glass, that is smart glass, that you can project holograms from. You can grab shit from right here and move it over to this other fucking device. They're going to be putting this shit in classrooms where they can, beam all of that to each student's individual tablet of glass and be able to work on stuff, problem solve, which would be cool, like for chemistry classes, because you could literally throw up a 3D diagram of what it is you're describing and be able to turn it every which way and see, how molecules form. Shit like that would be awesome for anything to do with like blueprints. If you're getting into structural engineering, things like that, it's really cool tech, but that's real shit that's already existed for a few years. It's just not commonplace yet. Give it a minute and you're going to be seeing everybody just walking around with glass instead of
Hey, while we
this
speaking
shit.
on this RoboCop issue, are you guys familiar with the crime predictive analysis software?
I've heard about it, but I'm not deeply familiar with it.
Supposedly, now I've never seen the movie, but everybody keeps telling me to watch Minority Report. And you know what? I'm gonna pull it up tonight. But there's an incident where they used this software in Chicago and they arrested a 17-year-old boy for a murder he so-called hasn't committed yet. And the mom, went out, got some funds, trying to get him some defense together. Now, this was maybe 2 years back when I first seen these videos. I don't even know if they're fucking still on YouTube or not. They probably been removed, but it was a fucking real fucking case, man, where somebody actually went to jail and arrested and fucking had to get legal assistance over a software saying he's going to commit a murder.
Wow.
That's some fucking crazy shit. Like,
So,
for them
like-
to be able to extrapolate that, it's ridiculous. Like, you don't know the future.
Well, I mean, okay, so check out how fucking freaky this shit is, though. Earlier this year, Westland introduced a program to reduce crime and added an autonomous security robot manufactured by Nightscope, a Silicon Valley company. Somebody, not me, should look into Nightscope, find out who they're owned by. Follow the money. Anyway, each robot is given a nickname, and the one roaming around Liberty Village is called the Westie. Westie from Westland. How fucking creative. Why
How
are they
adorable.
naming this fucking thing?
Right? Are they
Anyway.
trying to give it some type of personality to make people identify with it?
I mean, I kind of
fucking-
feel that way. But anyway, this model, K5, is a conical, bulky, artificial intelligence-powered robot that stands just over 5 feet tall. It slowly roams around at about a human walking pace, with 4 internal cameras capturing a constant 360-degree view. It can also scan and record license plates and unique digital identifiers that every cell phone broadcasts, known as MAC addresses. And it's not just cell phones. You're fucking, if you have a car with a computer in it that connects to the internet in any sort of way, your car has a MAC address. Your tablet has a MAC address. Your fucking navigation system, if it connects to the internet, has a MAC address.
Mhm.
Anyway.
So it literally has the capacity to track everything you're doing, where you've been, where you're going.
Yeah.
Again, Orwellian. Very fucking Orwellian type shit.
Hey, have y'all heard about the COVID-19 drones at all?
No. So
They were launched over in, I want to say New Hampshire, somewhere on the eastern seaboard. And it could detect body temperatures, and it will alert the police if it detected you coughing or sneezing.
What the
Oh.
fuck?
Yeah, man.
what?
Yeah.
That's nuts. Fuck. Why? What the hell? I mean, shit. What if you're a smoker? You just got smoker's cough. You know? Like,
Well,
gotta
yeah.
do-
So it's supposed to go off body temperature as well. So if you had a fever and was
if you have the
coughing,
combo. Okay.
yeah. So if you had certain symptoms that it read, and I want to know that from what fucking distance can it read this? Can I get this motherfucking drone? Shit.
Man, it's fucking funny because I remember back in the day, like telling people about this shit with the drones before they like were being used for warfare and then became just instantly fucking available for commercial use for any fucking buddy. People thought I was fucking nuts because I was like, dude, they're developing drones. Oh no, they're not. Yeah. And now it's just commonplace of like you can buy your kid a drone, you know? Like the technology is developing very, very quickly. I've seen some shit.
Hims can help. We can connect
Huh? What?
Sorry, it started playing a commercial and I didn't want to get copyrighted, so.
Gotcha. What are you pulling up?
A video of a creepy ass drone.
Okay.
Cool. But it's not the one that is patrolling the city. It is a newer model. It's the fucking dog one that everybody knows about already. Because they got to make them look like dogs because dogs are man's best friend, so people won't be afraid of. I don't understand their fucking reasoning for trying to make us relate to these things. It's pretty disturbing.
Well, have you seen some of the AI robots that they're making that literally will read your facial expressions and mimic those when they're trying to convey what it is they're saying. Like, there's some really fucking trippy videos. And honestly, those are ones I could see them ending up developing to be able to use as like RoboCops and shit. It's nuts. Like, there's one, I think her name is Sophia, the robot that's coming to mind. Like, they have a whole line of them, but there's been a lot of interviews with this Sophia AI that like carrying conversation with her, you know, she's learned how to actually, you know, respond and carry on a full-on conversation and describe things, you know, like she seems quite fucking intelligent, which is really goddamn scary. But
Okay,
also,
so speaking of scary, I want to point the attention. I didn't realize this was a thing.
right.
I went back too far, but like, okay, so like, I was concerned about this, right? Because like, you mount a fucking weapon on that and we're all fucking toast. But
right.
Watch the newer one when it gets to it. It seems a whole lot more agile.
Yeah, it's doing backflips.
Now think about those in warfare. Think about those either being drones like that is, or being operated by a person as like a mech suit. Either way, it's fucking terrifying.
Right. Like, what the fuck do you do to defend yourself against that if the wrong person is controlling that?
So, like, does the Second Amendment cover robotics?
I don't know. But I'd shoot that motherfucker if it was chasing me down.
Where do you shoot it?
I don't know. You'd have to know their schematics to know where like the motherboard would be at or something along those lines to actually fucking shut down its controls. Shit, man. Like, if something like that becomes RoboCop, what the fuck? Ooh. Although, could go either way. Could be better than the fucking cops that we have right now, as long as they don't fucking basically program the shit in a racist fucking manner like they've already done with the facial recognition software.
James said, can't fix potholes and don't have cell phone service in half the state, but homeless camp drones and plate scanners are a must.
Right. Fucking ridiculous.
Natalie said, think about them taking jobs. And then James said, what happens if you hit it with a Home Depot axe?
That's a good question. Or with Don's mace. See, this is a situation where the mace could come in handy. Just smash the motherfucker.
Oh, man. So I sent a story to the group chat.
Okay.
If you wanna read this one, I do. I don't know, man. I have some things to say about it, but I don't know.
Well, let's not overload your computer. I'll pull this one up and read through it. We can discuss. Judge dismisses FTC and state antitrust complaints against Facebook. A federal court on Monday dismissed the Federal Trade Commission's antitrust complaint. The dismissal deals a major setback to the agency's complaint, which could have resulted in Facebook divesting Instagram and WhatsApp. In the filing, the court states that the FTC did not prove that Facebook maintains a monopoly. Federal court on Monday dismissed it, as well as a parallel case brought by 48 state attorneys general, dealing a major setback to the agency's complaint. Shares of Facebook rose more than 4% on Monday following the rulings, sending the social media company's market capitalization above $1 trillion for the first time. Here's a quote. We are pleased that today's decisions recognize the defects in the government complaints against Facebook, the company said in a statement. We compete fairly every day to earn people's time and attention, and will continue to deliver great products for the people and businesses that use our service. That's funny because we pay them for advertising, yet they've limited a lot of our other posts and restricted them from, getting shared around a lot, simply because they're fucking political. The FTC sued the company last December, arguing that Facebook engaged in a systematic strategy to eliminate threats to its monopoly, including the 2012 and 2014 acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, respectively, which the FTC previously cleared. However, the court ruled Monday that the FTC failed to prove its main contention in the cornerstone of the case about the monopoly on U.S. personal social networking market. Quote, although the court does not agree with all of Facebook's contentions here, it ultimately concurs that the agency's complaint is legally insufficient and therefore must be dismissed, reads the filing from the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. The FTC has failed to plead enough facts to plausibly establish a necessary element of all of its Section 2 claims, namely that Facebook has monopoly power in the market for personal social networking services. The court found the FTC did not provide enough detailed data to prove Facebook has market power in the loosely defined market for personal social networking services. The complaint is undoubtedly light on specific factual allegations regarding consumer switching preferences, the court wrote. These allegations, which do not even provide an estimated actual figure or range for Facebook's market share at any point over the past 10 years, ultimately fall short of plausibly establishing that Facebook holds market power. Elsewhere, the filing notes that the FTC's complaint seemed to assume that the court would agree that Facebook is monopoly. Quote, the FTC's complaint says almost nothing concrete on the key question of how much power Facebook actually had and still has in a properly defined antitrust product market, the filing reads. It's almost as if the agency expects the court to simply nod to the conventional wisdom that Facebook is a monopolist. The ruling is not necessarily the end of the case. The court acknowledged that the FTC may be able to cure the weaknesses in its argument. Excuse me. So it left open the possibility that it could file an amended complaint and continue the litigation. The FTC is closely reviewing the opinion and assessing the best option forward, a spokesperson for the FTC said. The court also disagreed with Facebook's argument that the FTC does not have the power to attack the acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp. On the contrary, the court ruled that the FTC can still seek divestiture of these acquisitions, but only if it succeeds in its legal arguments about Facebook's monopoly power. However,
okay,
the
can
court...
I just interject here real quick to point out that...
Sure.
Oh, okay, so what do we have other than Facebook for that type of platform of social media? MySpace is long gone. Yeah, it's technically there, but how...
Basically unused.
Right. Google tried to do their own social media platform, and even Google couldn't compete with Facebook.
Right.
How is it not a monopoly? They completely control the market, and they know they do.
And the fact that they acquired
48 state attorneys general filed this motion. 48 out of 50 state attorneys general filed this motion. And a judge struck it down because of lack of evidence. The evidence is fucking right in front of your face. All you have to do is look.
That's the thing. Besides Facebook, I believe Instagram is the next most used social media platform.
Which is also owned by
You
Facebook.
know, like WhatsApp is up there somewhere, but probably in the top 10 or top 20, but not quite as high. But Facebook and Instagram, I believe, are the top 2 used social media platforms. You can't even say that acquiring that was not a move to just be your own competition, which is basically what monopolization of a resource is. That just seems fucked to me, that the court can say, well, you didn't show enough. Maybe the court is old motherfuckers that are out of touch, that don't use social media and have no fucking clue.
I think that's pretty likely.
Yeah. The court completely dismissed the parallel case from the state attorneys general, saying that the long delay between the acquisitions and the 2020 case filing was unprecedented on a state level, and that the state's argument about Facebook preventing interoperability with competing apps fails to state a claim under its current antitrust law, as there is nothing unlawful about having such a policy. Well, I can tell you, just from even the advertising that we've done, that they're at least monopolizing on that, because every time I pay to boost an ad, it's not just on Facebook. It immediately asks, do you want to boost this on Instagram too? New York Attorney General Lolita James said, we are reviewing this decision and considering our legal options. So who knows where this still might go. They at least left it open to, pursue in the future.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're doing. I think personally that it's probably some liberal judge that's just trying to push it on down the road, so it's not his fucking problem.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, if it was a conservative judge, they wouldn't have left it open to bring it back up with more evidence.
Not necessarily. Yeah. It would be a slim chance in hell that they would, but still, either way, they have a total lack of understanding of what's happening here with social media, and how these things are literally being controlled, manipulated like fucking strings on a puppet by one corporation that is swallowing up anything else that it sees growing that might compete with it. That's definitive of monopolization.
Well, I don't really have anything much more to say about this other than, frankly, I think that what the solution needs to be is that Facebook needs to be seized and be a publicly owned, publicly funded platform. Of course, if our current government did that, then we would still be susceptible to the same sort of, data mining and shit that Facebook is already doing.
As well as the same kind of silencing.
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally it would be publicly controlled too, not through a state, just directly publicly controlled.
Right. Public asset.
So the other thing in U.S. politics I wanted to talk about, actually this is more wealth inequality than anything. A recent study is showing that job seekers are flocking to jobs with hiring bonuses.
Mm-hmm. No surprise there. Make it worth people's time. You know?
And Anne Elizabeth Conkle, an economist at Indeed, told Yahoo Finance News, job seekers are able to have a little wiggle room, be able to shop around a little bit more, employers are increasingly offering hiring incentives that can be anything from signing bonuses to retention bonuses to straight up cash incentives. McDonald's franchises have offered people $50 just to show up to the interview.
Damn. Ow.
But a lot of these sectors that badly need workers aren't rushing to offer these incentives. In April, job openings in accommodation and food services posted the largest monthly increase in hiring incentives, but hires in the sector were fewer. But that being said, only 1% or 1.8% of hospitality and tourism and 3.1% of food preparation and service jobs offered hiring bonuses. That's why the hires in that sector were fewer. Bonuses, though, are much lower than they are in other industries, and fewer places are offering them to begin with. Bonuses for food preparation and service jobs range from $100 to $2,500, while those same incentives for nursing jobs, for example, range from $100 to $30,000. I'm not necessarily saying that people that flip burgers should necessarily make as much as a nurse, but they shouldn't have to worry about how they're going to pay their fucking rent, where their next meal's going to come from. And I mean, we've kind of been following the situation in the U.S. workforce for quite some fucking time. We discussed a couple of weeks ago that workers are quitting their jobs at historic rates. We have a low-key general strike happening, and the media calls it a labor shortage. If the media was listening, then they would call it a wage shortage. There is no shortage of labor. There is no shortage of people that want to work. There's just a shortage of people that are willing to submit themselves to fucking slavery to get by.
All right, that's the real deal right there. Is you got to make it worth people's time if you want their labor. And I mean, to be fair, I must quote a meme that I saw because it kind of hit the nail on the fucking head. It said, nobody ever wanted to work anyway. That was the whole fucking point of paying us. We are more expensive now.
Right. I mean, I thought it was up to the market to decide the cost of labor. Well, we are the fucking market, and we're not gonna fucking do this shit for pennies anymore.
Right. Not worth our time, not worth our sweat. If you can't pay a reasonable fucking wage, then you don't deserve to be in business. And by reasonable, I mean not just survival wage, but a thriving wage.
Yeah.
You should be able to easily afford the roof over your head, the food in your belly, the car to drive, the gas to put in it, a fucking vacation paid, things like that. If we can't even raise the bar to where fucking serfdom was at, as far as time off that you still had, plenty of wages from when you were working to be able to survive on during the time off and, be able to travel and take vacations. Sorry, serfs had it better. Sorry, not sorry. People haven't woken up to the fact that it's just wage slavery yet. They need to squeegee their fucking eyes clean.
So I want to talk a little bit about what alternatives we have, because the ball's in our court. We have the power.
That means that when you go for a job interview and they ask you either on the paperwork or in the interview what kind of wages you're seeking, motherfucker, put down $30 an hour, $35 an hour, more if you're going for a skilled labor job. You should be demanding a living fucking wage. And in most
And even
places, you got to
outside
make
of
at least
that,
25.
I agree with that. But I mean, even outside of that, I think we need to rethink employer-employee relations in this country. Okay, like we need to be
Absolutely.
focusing on cooperative businesses. We need to be focusing on community building, mutual aid groups, community gardening, free stores, free clinics, free schools. We need to do this ourselves because we can do it better.
Right. That's the thing, you know, when this power is being held in the hands of the labor force itself. You know what? If the people who are hiring aren't willing to reconsider their structure and make it a horizontal one, and make you part owner, then you should start your own fucking business with the people who you network with, collaborate with, and do the same types of business. Start your own and run it right from the get-go as a co-op that is equally owned by each person who works there. This is the only way that we're going to see a balancing of these scales, is quit participating in the capitalistic fucking exploitation of other people's labor, including your own.
Right. Kayla in the comments, hi Kayla, by the way, said, I've been to a few interviews and been rejected for negotiations on wages. And
That means fuck them.
exactly.
Move on to the next one.
Exactly.
If they're not willing to meet you at that table and pay you what your time and your labor and your skills are worth, fuck them. They're not the right ones for you. You probably wouldn't be happy there anyway. They showed you who they really are right off the bat, that they're like, no, we're not willing to value you as an employee. Okay, next.
Yeah. And I mean, for the love of God, if you work at McDonald's and you feel you're not being paid fairly for your labor, walk out in the middle of your shift, put a fucking sign on the window that said, sorry, we quit, we can't pay our bills.
Right.
It's happening all over the country, and I know it sounds bad. Well, why would you leave a job? Why would you waste half of your time or more at a job that's not paying the bills? Or if you do manage to get by working fast food, or to a large extent the food or retail industries in general, you're working 60, 70 hours a week to pay the bills. No, fuck that. Negotiate with them. Tell them that you want your time and a half rate as your fucking hourly rate, or you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do? They know they can't replace you for months. They know.
Right.
I mean, what are they going to do? Fire you? Okay, peace. You can do better.
It's one of those things we're literally going to have to force their hand. And that, like you said, with this very subtle general strike is what's happening. That they're realizing, oh, fuck, ain't nobody going to take our job for a bullshit ass wage. We're going to have to raise the wages if we're even going to attract anybody to an interview. And it's about fucking time. If we can't convince our fucking employees in government to push for it, then we have to force their hands ourselves and refuse to work for pittances.
And, you know, seeing as the situation at the border has literally not changed since Biden took office, that shut down a very important supply of cheap labor for shitty business owners in this country.
Right.
And that is also forcing their hands. Kayla said, we were discussing this the other day, Rob. Yes, we were. It's pretty brutal out there and it sucks. I was mostly fortunate with my jobs, however, not now. No one wants to pay more than 9 to 10 an hour in my location. And if they do, it's like 50 to 60 hours a week. So it's not even winning on that wage. Exactly.
Oh, fuck. That's horrible. That's fucking horrible. Let's put this in context. I made more money than that 20 fucking years ago with a job just working at a nursing home with very little training. All it required was a high school diploma and that you get trained, you know, to do med passing, things like that.
Which was probably paid for by the employer.
Yeah, they did the training right there at the nursing home. That was a job I got when I was still a senior in high school, and I made more money than that 20 fucking years ago, and it wasn't enough to survive on then, and they still want to be offering some bitch ass wages like that. $10 an hour, I would tell them to get fucked. The whole community needs to tell them to get fucked.
Natalie brought up, if you need the healthcare insurance and any other time, the system has you. Chronic illness or sick child can keep you at a job. Right now, healthcare has options never seen in this country until the pandemic. If you're unemployed, you'll qualify for Medicaid, especially if you have a kid. Fuck that.
Right.
I understand the point. I understand why people do it. That's the only way that we're going to force our way into a public payer healthcare system. Tying healthcare to employment has basically enslaved us. And I mean, as if low wages aren't slavery enough, tie healthcare to that too. Kayla said I was making $18 an hour and then I stood up for myself because I was just broken from working so much. I was pulling in 70-hour weeks as a supervisor. It's either work your ass off or get paid not to live.
God.
And yeah, I mean, I am proud of you for standing up for yourself. It's not easy. I still struggle with it today. Well, less and less as time goes on. I think that the older I get, the more vocal I get. The less I veil it with sarcasm, the more I'm like, you're an exploitative piece of shit.
Right. I'm glad you stood up for yourself the way that you did today, what we were talking about earlier before hopping on here. Like, sometimes you got to do that and let motherfuckers know, like, you can't talk to me like that. I don't give a shit who you are.
Exactly. And I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say, you know, if you're being mistreated or if you're being underpaid, quit your job. But the point is, always shop around. Always. Even if you think you don't have time, always shop around. And if something better comes up, don't be tied, you know, by fake loyalty to a place that doesn't give a shit about you. I guess the only other thing that I have to say about like low-key organizing a workplace is that it's not very hard to look around and see that everybody's getting fucked and everybody's pissed, right? When one of them talks about it, encourage that. Point out how they're right. Reassure them. Point them in the direction that I think everybody needs to go at this point. This system is not sustainable. It never was.
It's only sustainable by people allowing themselves to be exploited and mind fucked into thinking that that's just their fucking lot in life, is to be exploited, and to think that shit like, yeah, I'm on my grind, I fucking worked 80 hours this week, is something to brag about. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, stop wearing that as a badge of honor, dude. It's not. I've been there. I've done that.
Right.
Don't. It's not a badge of honor. Okay, so like I already talked about how I quoted our most recent guest, Jason, at work the other day, right? Like we were kind of jokingly talking about socialism, right? And I just piped up with what Jason said on the stream when he was introducing himself. Some people say that you need to read Marx's Capital, but I have the Marx of Capital all over my fucking body.
Mm-hmm. Don't we all?
And I know most of us do, exactly. I mean, like, hold on, do you see?
I see the burns.
You see the burns? Yep. Exactly. sheet trays, the edge of ovens, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right? Fuck. And that's one thing that, I mean, regardless of what industry somebody is in, they're likely to have some type of fucking injury they have sustained at work that wouldn't happen if there was proper safety measures in place, things like that. You know how many people I know who've worked in the shop for years and had to have surgery like it was some routine shit, like, yeah, my rotator cuff is fucked from repetitive motion on this fucking machine building parts. So yep, going to get that one done. We'll get this one done next year when the insurance will cover it again. Shit like that from work. It's like, yeah, you're wearing the fucking marks of that. It's literally destroying your body to participate in most forms of capitalism, and destroying your mind, even if it's not destroying your body. Something's got to fucking give. Shit's got to change how we operate things, because there's no excuse for there to be this fucked hierarchy of people thinking, well, I'm CEO, my time's worth $10,000 an hour. Yours is just worth 10 when you're doing all the actual fucking work. Fuck that. Fuck all of that.
Right. Like, I mean, if you have access to numbers at your place of employment, calculate how, or even guesstimate how much money you make your employer compared to how much you get paid.
Mm-hmm. You'll see it's ridiculous. That's why motherfuckers like the CEO of McDonald's can get paid over $8,000 an hour. Everybody's always talking about if you raise the wages for the people working in the restaurants, that, oh, that'll drive up the price of my fucking burger, or, you know, that'll just drive up more inflation and shit. Nobody ever fucking questions that the CEO's making over $8,000 an hour. There's no excuse for that. There should be limitations on that of like, you're only allowed to make X times what your lowest paid worker makes. If somebody's willing to fucking allow some shit like that to even continue, I don't even agree with going only that far. It should be horizontal. There is no fucking excuse. Sorry, no, I don't care if you're a fucking CEO or if you're the one flipping the fucking burgers. Your time and your labor, that's not more valuable just because you're sitting in a fucking office instead of risking getting fucking injuries and burnt and all of that shit. If anything, the people fucking risking their fucking skin suit should get paid more than somebody sitting at a fucking desk. The way that we have shit set up is fucked. Utterly fucked.
I agree. So I guess it's about time to move on to our last piece. I guess you could call this good news. I guess you could call it science news. It's kind of both. Anybody have any guesses?
Dinosaur Man or Lizard Man, whatever the fuck it was.
Dragon Man.
Dragon Man. Okay, show me this skull. I'm curious.
Well, I'm gonna start with the facial digital reconstruction, which I do kind of feel is a bit premature, but regardless, it's basically okay. So basically, what they're thinking is that this guy was a common ancestor, potentially a common ancestor of both Neanderthal and Homo sapien, or even a very early Neanderthal.
I'm curious to see the DNA test results.
Yeah,
Because honestly,
that's
it
going to
could
take a
be.
little more time, but
right. But
yeah.
just from appearance wise, it looks like it could be even a cross between the two. Maybe one of the first, people who was born of both Neanderthal and, our Homo erectus ancestors.
Well, I mean, they think that it is potentially an ancestor to several different human variants that coexisted in the middle to late Pleistocene.
Nice.
Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergus, the Neanderthals, which is Homo neanderthalis, I believe, and Homo sapiens.
Okay, yeah, because it's got facial features in common with all of the above, so that makes sense.
Yeah. I thought that this article had. Okay, here we go. But which one is which?
I don't know. You're not screen sharing anymore.
I know. I'm trying to find the correct image, and the one that they had is like very shittily labeled, so I don't know which one's which. But I can show you. I can show you a collection of skulls.
Okay.
Fucking ass. So I guess it's Peking Man, Maba, Jiniushan, Dolly, and Harbin.
The significant size difference between the majority of them versus the one on the very end on the right is quite noticeable.
Right. It is also the largest of known Homo skulls found this far. And it's kind of got like square-shaped eye sockets. It has a bigger brow ridge than even the Neanderthals did.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And I'm really excited about the DNA test myself because, well, I mean, our early history is so muddy because there was so many different species that were all interbreeding. It's going to take decades, if we ever are able to untangle that web. It's going to take decades of research at the very least.
Right. This is a very tangled web. You know, that's one thing to really put into perspective is just how many different types of, you know, I don't want to necessarily put it this way, but it's the best way I can put it, humanoid species, pre-human species, that were roaming the earth at the same time and interbreeding, outcompeting each other, things along those lines that, you know, it's kind of beautiful to see just how many different variations of pre-human, you know, hominids we had walking the earth, and to be able to trace back our own DNA and go, okay, fuck, this is cool. I don't know. This shit's always been intriguing. I have found it intriguing since I was a child and the Human Genome Project first started. It's just really dope. You know, I mean, we've already found cool things like discovering that, you know, people of Irish and Scottish descent have a higher portion of Neanderthal DNA than the rest of humanity. You know, it's cool shit like that. I dig it. I don't know. Science is cool. I'm rambling.
Indeed.
I wonder why the fuck they're calling him Dragon Man though, because he doesn't look like a dragon.
No. It's the Dragon River.
Okay, got you. Okay. I was gonna say, like, I was expecting something weird about his skull or something, just from the name, and it's like, no, he just looks like your typical prehistoric person.
Yeah, they just found him near a river.
Right on. That makes more sense.
I think it also speaks to how long that river's been running through fucking China, huh?
Right? Like, holy shit, bro. Fuck. That's beautiful.
I think all we have left is international politics.
And there was a piece that I found earlier for Pride, but
yeah.
We've been delving into other stuff. Well, give me just a second, because now I gotta grab it. Come on, open up. Okay. This is a piece from BBC. This is delving into like history of LGBTQ prior to modern time, which I think is really intriguing. This piece is called Pride Month, the LGBT history you probably didn't learn in school. If you think we live in an open-minded, sex-positive society now, just wait until you hear what may have been going on down the Yorkshire mines in the 1950s. There's a lot of LGBT history many of us don't know, partly because it wasn't covered in school, partly because so much of it happened in secret. This is a quote from Harry Cox, associate history professor at the University of Nottingham. He said, even in the 19th century, it's very difficult to talk about gay or lesbian identity because those identity definitions, basically, they didn't really exist. There wasn't really any such thing. Of course, everyone was still at it. The existence of molly houses in the 18th century, pubs or coffee houses, although some just think they were brothels, where men would meet is well known. It's just that many men who visited them went back to their wives and families afterwards. People have always challenged gender norms and sexual norms, Professor Cox said. The idea that you can organize the world around the kinds of desires that you have, I think, is a very recent idea. Justin Bengry, senior lecturer in queer history at Goldsmiths University of London, says it's important to present LGBT history as being part of the ordinary fabric of modern and not so modern life. Because so much LGBT history took place behind closed doors, Justin says new stories are being uncovered all the time, which means there's plenty that could make its way into the mainstream education. Film and Filming magazine doesn't sound very sexy, does it? When it was launched in 1954, gay magazines were a strictly under-the-counter affair. But this publication hid in plain sight on the shelves of UK newsagents in the 1950s. If you go through it, for many of us, it will tweak our gaydar looking at those 1950s issues, because there seems to be more bare-chested men than you'd expect, says Dr. Bengry. Then you get to the personal ads at the back and you start seeing all of these ads for young bachelors looking to meet other young bachelors interested in things like physiques and photography and wrestling, and it all starts to come together. Its editorial team was gay, and after the Sexual Offences Act of 1967, when gay sex was decriminalized in England and Wales, the magazine was able to be more open and feature naked men on the cover. Prior to that, in the 50s and 60s, you were just interested in film. Oh, and there's a lot of men in that film. In 1885, gross indecency between two men was made illegal, and in 1921, a similar law was discussed for women as well. But this didn't get very far in the House of Lords, partly because they didn't want to discuss the matter, and partly because they believed women were so impressionable. If they heard about women having sex with other women, they might want to try it for themselves. As if we fucking would need, somebody else to plant that idea. Like, no, if you're a woman and you're attracted to women, you know you're attracted to women. You don't need somebody to suggest it to you. That's ignorant. They were concerned that all of these innocent-minded women who would never have considered the possibility of any kind of erotic activity between women would now have it suggested to them and would now have opened up to them, says Dr. Bengry. We think of children as still forming or impressionable, and certainly they thought in the 20s of women as being of weaker intellect and impressionable in similar ways. So that just shows, like the sheer misogyny that was still just wreaking havoc back then. It's horrible. I mean, it still does, just in different ways, but damn. I don't know who said this, but it seems very true that every generation figures they invented everything about sex. And that's not the case at all, says Dr. Bengry. He's talking about a study by Dr. Helen Smith at Lincoln University, which discovered that working class men in Yorkshire during the 1950s were having sex with each other in fields, behind pubs, at each other's houses, and perhaps most significantly at work. This is the height of the ideal of monogamous heterosexual bliss. What Helen found was that this was acceptable within their communities. Many of these men were married, many of them had children, and their partners knew they were having sex with other men in the industrial workplace. The research concluded that if their actions at work didn't affect the status of the family, this sort of thing was all okay. As long as their shenanigans at work didn't disrupt the family, as long as they didn't leave their wives, as long as they didn't leave their children hungry, this could be accommodated within normal heterosexuality in the North in mid 20th century. Gender bender system offender rapped Bimini Bon Boulash in the 2021 season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK. They could have been talking about Eleanor Reikenor, who lived centuries ago. Eleanor was arrested near St. Paul's Cathedral in London in 1394, caught having sex in an alley with a man called John Rigby. But it was only when they were arrested and the police took testimony from the pair that they discovered Eleanor was also called John. They discovered that Eleanor, or John Reikenor, lived this absolutely fantastical life, says Dr. Bengry. Sometimes living as a man, sometimes living as a woman, sometimes having sex with men, sometimes having sex with women, sometimes being paid for it and sometimes not, and just living this completely gender fluid life. That was the better part of 1,000 years ago, and this is someone that was jumping between gender positions and discussing a wide range of sexual partners. He says Eleanor/John's fantastical life could, quote, fit into a conversation today in London. What are you reading this article on right now? Chances are it's powered by some of the technology that Lynn Conway pioneered in the 60s when she worked as a computer scientist for IBM. Lynn's work for IBM was some of the earliest into microchips, but she was sacked when the company found out Lynn was transgender and planned to transition, and her work on the project ended. Her life's work has made, yeah, it's fucked. Her life's work has made the fact that we're having this conversation on tiny little computers possible, says Christine Burns, MBE, activist and author of Trans Britain, Our Journey from the Shadows, tells Newsbeat. It's because I think such a story of human spirit against the worst of all odds. Lynn, now 83, was forced to start her career from scratch after her transition. And in 2020, IBM issued an official apology for how she was treated 50 years ago. We deeply regret what you went through, said IBM's Senior Vice President of Human Affairs late last year. Christine says Lynn is a real role model to all of us. Lots of people who have been discriminated against over the eons are recognized posthumously, Christine adds. That's all well and good, but it's much nicer actually if we can be alive to see it. Professor Cox says that if there was to be more LGBT history taught in British schools, it should also include landmark moments where laws changed and where lives changed. Moments like the 1957 Wolfenden Report, which recommends decriminalize of gay sex and suggested homosexuality should no longer be considered a disease, or the Sexual Offences Act of 1967 when gay sex was decriminalized in England and Wales. Plus there's Section 28, a ban by the conservative government in the 80s against any LGBT teaching taking place in schools, which means anyone in education between 1988 and 2000 in Scotland or 2003 in England and Wales wouldn't have been allowed to learn about any of this. With knowledge of events like these, Christine says we'd have a better understanding of how society works. This goes for all minorities, and it goes for women too, who aren't a minority, she says. We cannot understand our place as a community of similar experiences and culture unless we understand where we've come from. I think that's cool, because like, as much as I have, you know, dove into the history of LGBT stuff, I'd never found anything in reference to, you know, these situations that they brought up in this article. So I thought that was kind of cool, because most of what I have found was, you know, relating to the United States. So now it's got me kind of curious to really dig into the history of it, like on a global scale, more so. And
Jason said the pictures and films you see of Nazis burning books is them erasing 200 years of LGBTQ study and research.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, not to change the subject too much, but I wanted to address the comments. They were talking about the Delta variant of COVID.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out we haven't had a COVID segment in quite a while because Dean hasn't been here. But so given the CDC's testing plan right now is kind of fucking us because we're not getting a real picture of the number of cases by a long shot. Because if you're vaccinated, then you're not recommended to get tested ever.
Which is ridiculous because even if you're vaccinated, you're only vaccinated against the strains covered in the vaccine. So until they get those updated to cover these new variants, guess what you're not fucking protected from?
That's not entirely true. The Delta variant is still affected by the vaccine because it's an mRNA vaccine that attaches to the spike protein. But
the thing is,
that being
the only
said,
protection it's going to offer you is just your symptoms possibly being lessened by it. That you won't have as bad of a case of it. You're still susceptible to fucking catch it. You're not protected from catching or passing it on. And a lot of people don't realize that.
The only way that vaccines have that high of an efficacy at transmission is if we hit herd immunity, which we're not even fucking close to. We're struggling to hit 52%. Herd immunity, bare minimum is 70. Ideally, it's 80.
Right. And even if we were to reach that point with the current vaccine, that would still not achieve herd immunity for the Delta variant or any of the others that are popping up. You know, it would still be that case.
It would be effective against any of them that doesn't have any major changes to the spike protein. It targets the spike protein, not the whole cell.
Right. So it might decrease your symptoms, but you're still going to catch it, you know. So we need to update these vaccines to actually cover those variants too. And still keep
That's what I'm saying.
Those boosters.
Those variants are still covered because there haven't been any major changes to the spike protein. That's what the vaccine focuses on.
If it was as effective for that though as it is for the others, then you know you would be seeing a lower incidence there. Not just your symptoms are milder than if you didn't have it.
Well, if we were at herd immunity, that's the whole thing. We have too many people in the United States that are simply not willing to get it. And I mean, I understand people being skeptical, but it's the only way we're going to beat this thing. It's the only way. And Dean's been saying that for months. And he also warned that, you know, we were going to stop testing. He also warned that we were going to get very complacent and everywhere was going to reopen at once. Here we are. Everywhere's reopened, and there's already countries overseas that are closing back down because of the Delta variant. They didn't have the vaccine rolled out at a high enough rate to prevent it. And we're going to have the same issue here.
Yeah.
But that being said, we don't have a big, robust testing program anymore.
And that's the thing. You should still be getting tested, even if you've gotten your vaccine. You can still spread the shit around if you come across a variant. You know, that it's just ridiculous to me that they're like, oh no, you no longer need testing. Well, you know, what about the fact that they're recommending boosters every 6 to 12 months? Do you really think you should go that long without getting tested and, you know, not find out till it's too late? If you know, like say if you're coming up on that time for a booster, if you don't have as much of that antibody producing stimuli left from your previous dose and you're at risk there, maybe you should, you know, I don't know, limit your exposure to other people until you get your booster. That's the thing. We don't even really know for sure yet how long these are going to be effective for, how often we're going to need boosters on them to actually.
Well, that's the thing, though. Even the antibodies from getting it only last a few months. That being said, the vaccine should, based on preliminary studies, should have a much longer effective time frame than that. But we still don't know how long it's going to last. And they've been saying that since the beginning. It's not like we didn't know this. That being said, none of the variants, even the variants of concern right now, are getting around the vaccine. That's not the problem. The problem is that not enough people are vaccinated. The booster shots are going to be a future thing. I guarantee that, but we're not even to that point yet. We're not even out of this neck of the woods.
Right. That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize. They think, oh, well, if enough other people get vaccinated, that'll be sufficient. And it's like,
do your part.
We're not hitting numbers, right? We're not hitting those numbers. And it's because a lot of people are so scared of getting the vaccines and stuff. And we have a war going on between ultimately fucking pro-vaccine people and very ultimately anti-vax people. And it's like, how about you meet somewhere in the middle called using your fucking head and do your research on every vaccine before taking it, because not all vaccines are created equal. Some are safe, some are fucking dangerous. This one, at least, from what we can see so far, I don't see huge health risks unless you actually have a pre-existing cardiac condition where you are likely to throw blood clots, things like that. Those people, I understand, might not want to roll the dice on their fucking life. But anybody who doesn't have cardiac issues,
the dice on their life, though. That's the whole thing.
This is true.
And I mean, I felt like, and maybe it's because I was listening to Dean so long, but I felt like the only option, realistically, is to get vaccinated.
Right.
And I mean, we have seen the deaths, plummet. Sure, I'll admit that. That doesn't mean we're out of the woods. That means that we beat the variants that were here.
Right. And just like every fucking virus does, it fucking changes with every person it infects because it's using your DNA to replicate itself with. So it's going to shift some. It's one thing, like, if somebody has a pre-existing condition that makes them high risk for, those negative results of taking the fucking vaccine, they need to do still keep wearing your masks, using your fucking hand sanitizer, socially, distancing when you're out in public, and quarantining, but anybody who is not in that group really needs to check into it and read up on the research that's been done so far, because at least with the mRNA types, those I feel safe taking. The Johnson & Johnson ones that are, old school, and the AstraZeneca that is pretty much old school vaccine type, except using a different virus as a carrier. No, I personally won't waste my fucking time with those two because they're only about 65% effective. But the mRNA one that's just teaching your cells how to produce those antibodies, I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that.
I wanted to address Kayla's comment. She said she does believe in vaccinations. However, she feels weird in this situation because it's not FDA approved. I feel like there wasn't enough testing in the long run. But this mRNA coronavirus vaccine has been in development for 10 years. I know that sounds suspicious on the surface, but it's because coronaviruses are...
It's a huge family of viruses.
Right, it's a huge family of viruses, and they've been working on a broad spectrum coronavirus vaccine for over a decade now. That's what this was based in.
That's why it was so easy for them to get this out as quickly as they did, because they literally just had to plug and play of, okay, we're going to remove this part for that coronavirus that this was supposed to target, and we're going to put this in there to target COVID-19.
And they had already done a lot of research specifically into the spike protein, because it's not just effective against that virus, it's effective against many coronaviruses.
Yep.
Um,
Any of them that are displaying that protein on the surface of them, it's going to be able to react and respond to.
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, it's up to you to make your own decisions. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I do think the only way that we're going to get out of the COVID scenario is to achieve herd immunity. And personally, like you said, Tricia, I feel more research has gone into that mRNA vaccine than anything else. And a lot of people went with the Johnson & Johnson because it's only one shot and it's a traditional vaccine and they feel safe with that. That's okay for them, but that hasn't been researched.
Right. The mRNA one actually has, and I think a lot of people aren't realizing that. They're just trying to form a parallel between this old school vaccine type of like, okay, we know that injecting ourselves with deadened virus does help, but that's the one that doesn't have thorough research done on it, not the mRNA version. I'm much more comfortable taking the mRNA one.
I'm trying to find up-to-date information on vaccination in Cuba because I've been curious. They took a completely socialist approach to the COVID-19 vaccine, and whoa, feedback. What happened there?
Sorry, I'm stretching and my phone started ringing right next to my headset.
Oh, I got you. I got you. So
I forgot
Cuba,
to turn the ringer off.
they're also doing an mRNA vaccine, but they're doing it a little different. They're doing 3 shots spaced 3 weeks apart. So they do have a pretty low percentage of people fully vaccinated for that reason. Their total percent fully vaccinated in Cuba is 8.5%, which is 960,000 people. But there's been 5.5 million doses distributed. So, I mean, that number is going to shoot up drastically. They planned to be completely vaccinated by the end of August, and they didn't even start until last month.
And they didn't even have huge numbers as far as infection rate to begin with.
Right. But basically, they tried to come to the table internationally with, the Western countries and develop a vaccine together and then distribute it for free. But American and British manufacturers weren't willing to distribute for free. So Cuba partnered with, they had to do research in Iran and India because they didn't have enough cases at home to study it themselves.
Right.
So that's how Cuba handled this. Anyway, so from May 7th to June 28th, they have distributed 5.5 million doses of their vaccine absolutely for free. And that's just in their home country. They're distributing it in, I think, 11 other countries as well. 11 other countries, which, may I add, Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca wouldn't touch because they can't make money off of it.
Mm-hmm. Shows you where their priorities are.
But yeah, no, I really am going to keep an eye on those numbers because it's inspiring. That being said, Cuba had been working on their own broad spectrum coronavirus vaccine for a while too, so it's not like they were just jumping into it head first either.
Right. This has been something in play for a while simply because of how common the common cold is, thus the name the common cold. I mean, things like that, get passed around every year, and a lot of people might not necessarily pay attention to it, but shit like that can be deadly for certain parts of the population. Either way, it's at least a hindrance to the health of others, even if you are recovering from them easily. Things like that they've been looking into for a long time to be able to just stop the spread of those things so it's not a hindrance. You know, it's shit we deal with on an annual basis that we could eradicate.
Yeah. So Kayla said, this is just my opinion. I admit I'm hesitant, but I'm also very self-isolated right now and waiting for more testing to come out. Like, I hardly leave my house. And I understand that.
Same.
And again, I strongly think that you should make the decision yourself. It's just my personal words of encouragement that we all do what we can to fight this thing. I know.
I
don't
would
wanna
like to
lock
take
back
a
down.
moment. I would like to take a moment too to point out that there's a lot of people like myself who have been waiting for our doctors to even get the supply. My doctor's office has been waiting for at least 3 months now that I can think of for their supply of the Moderna one to come in.
That's crazy because you can, I mean, in most places, I guess I can't speak as to there, but you can probably get it at fucking Meijer or Walgreens same day.
Right. I asked at Rite Aid and they said to go online to like register for an appointment. So I'm probably just going to do that. You know, I just, it's ridiculous that there's so many of our doctors that don't even have it on hand yet.
Well, no, because they're sending it to all these private companies instead of sending it to actual healthcare infrastructure. They're sending it to private companies so that way they can collect the money from the government.
Right. It's fucking ridiculous. Like they're making sure that wealthier hands receive it first. Whereas, you know, doctors like mine who's on the east side of Flint and the majority of his patients are poor to middle class.
Well, right, and
He
there's
can't
not
get his fucking supply.
Right, and there's not like an overabundance of fucking Walgreens or, you know, whatever on the east side of Flint either. So, I mean,
Right.
I really would like to know what the vaccination rate there is because they don't have the infrastructure for it, especially
Right,
if they're not sending it to doctors' offices.
Right. I mean, there's some people who have probably managed to get it from the health department or something. That's one other place that I was told to check with because of their supply not coming in. But still, there's only so much even the health department's going to have dosage-wise to cover people. There's, you know, it's unreal that they're just totally fucking okay with making poor areas wait and wait and wait to get their supply.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, like my dad's doctor's office in Grand Blanc, they got theirs months ago.
Natalie said that we most likely need to reach herd immunity and can't as it is. Could that actually possibly maybe cause a much worse pandemic than this has been? I pray not. But that's exactly what Dean's been warning about. The third wave is traditionally the biggest in every single pandemic. And we haven't hit the third wave. I mean, we tried, I guess, to get vaccinated before the third wave, but nationally, let me pull this up actually. U.S. vaccine distribution. Oh, a map of where you can get. No, okay, I found another one. There we go. From Our World in Data from 2 days ago, we are 46.6% fully vaccinated, but I read yesterday that it was just shy of 52. Either way, we're about halfway there. We still have a ways to go. It doesn't got to be 100%. Hell, I'd be happy with 70%, which is what science says is the bare minimum to achieve herd immunity through vaccination. Right. I don't think that it would necessarily cause a I just had a brain fart. I don't think it would cause a worse pandemic per se, but the third wave traditionally is the biggest, and the most that we can ask for at this point is that it might dull it. But of course, we'll never actually know because we're not doing proper testing.
Right. So it looks on the surface like, oh, our numbers are getting better. No, we're just not testing. How you can't fucking show results from a lack of data. That's just not how science works.
Kayla is talking about how she's gotten tested a lot, which I mean, good.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Setting a good example there.
While I was working. Oh, I remember that actually. Okay, so not your case specifically, but this scenario. You know, like would be hesitant on being sick, go in and get tested, and then you get sent home from work for 10 fucking days to quarantine. So they thought I was exploiting the policy, although inaccurate. I do fear of getting sick and appreciate the encouragement to get the vaccine. However, I will not take J&J, and that's the only one available from my local healthcare facilities. Kayla, if you're still living where I think you are, your best bet, honestly, is to probably go downstate. Like Metro Detroit.
Find a Rite Aid, maybe? Because I know they're doing the Moderna. I think, if I remember correct. They either had Moderna or Pfizer. I think it was Moderna.
So Jason said
mRNA.
vaccines are 100% free of charge in Texas. I believe that. Oh, you mean vaccines in general, not just COVID. Okay, that's cool.
That's dope.
Flu free, shingles free, tetanus free.
Oh, wow.
You can walk into any grocery store, Walgreens, CVS in Texas and get the instant jab.
Wow. Ew.
Don't forget to eat well and protect yourself. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
While the vaccine gives your body an upper hand, it gives your immune system an upper hand, you can give your immune system an upper hand as well. The better prepared your body is, the better your chances are of not getting seriously sick. And we still don't know all of the facts about long COVID. There is people that were sick months ago that still haven't fully recovered, that still have breathing issues or that have scarred lungs, or we don't know all the answers about all of that.
Right.
I mean, you know, like the thought of like the sense of smell and the sense of taste not coming back, that's enough for me to get vaccinated right there.
Dude, it took months for mine to fully come back. I mean, and honestly, it might not even be back to full capacity. But to even be able to smell and taste things again after having it took fucking months. It's ridiculous. We don't know yet what the long-term effects are going to be. You know, it kind of makes me wonder, because for a while I was still having breathing issues for quite some time. Now I think I'm back to just my general smoker's cough. But, you know, there's a lot of people who have had it even worse and needed to be hospitalized, that, you know, they're dealing with scar tissue all up in their lungs.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's not something to fucking play with. That is your source of oxygen. You know, that's why, you know, it is important to keep your immune system strong too. You know, for the people who are out there who are just like saying, well, I'm not getting vaccinated because I have an immune system, I'd like to point out that, you know, the immune system does do some pretty dope shit, but it obviously doesn't protect 100% against everything, or this wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, it does help to boost your immune system and take shit like zinc, elderberry, vitamin C. You know, these are things that I supplement with every day just to make sure that I keep my immune system strong too. But that's not going to stop me from getting the fucking jab as soon as I have the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
The smartest option is
I just looked at the clock, and I'm gonna, if it's okay with you anyway, I'm gonna push on to international news so we can start trying to wrap this up.
Absolutely. We're going on 3 hours. I just saw that.
Yeah. So first things first, Myanmar. I'm sure all of you probably at this point know that a military coup happened in February in Myanmar. We've been following it since February. They're basically in a state of war, and I think this really solidifies it. Violence in post-coup Myanmar has escalated as anti-junta self-defense forces step up to take on the military. According to a new report warning of enormous human cost if the regime uses its full power in subsequent crackdowns. But I mean, they've already been using every power at their disposal to crack down. And it's not killing the resolve of the opposition. It's not going to. More than 880 people have been killed in junta crackdowns on dissent. In some areas, locals, often using hunting rifles or weapons manufactured at makeshift jungle factories, have formed defense forces to fight back. In response, the military has used helicopters and artillery, including against groups in northwestern Chin State and along the eastern border with Thailand. Faced with armed insurrection, the Tatmadaw, the Myanmar military, can be expected to unleash its military might against civilians, according to the International Crisis Group, which is a nonprofit, non-governmental think tank that seeks to prevent conflict. The human cost will be enormous, particularly for women, children, and the elderly. So basically, they're encouraging the junta to step down, but there are, from the sounds of it, there are gun battles like spontaneously taking place between the military and armed self-defense groups all over the country. They know they're outgunned. They don't care. They don't want to be oppressed.
Right. Outnumbered and outgunned ain't gonna stop you from defending your life.
Exactly. And I mean, they're making guns in makeshift factories knowing that they're up against a standing army.
Right. That speaks volumes there when they're like, all right, time to start manufacturing our own. Well-armed proletariats.
James said, I like the 3-hour tour, Rob. Yeah, it's been a while.
Y'all must like it. Yeah, every week, every Monday night is a good 3-hour tour.
Yeah. Then moving on to India, 3 Delhi metro stations have shut tight security in Haryana ahead of farmers' protests today. You remember the farmers' protests that started 7 fucking months ago?
Right.
You remember when the mainstream media wouldn't talk about it? They're still not. But you remember when the mainstream media wouldn't talk about it because there was millions of people in the streets of India with fucking hammer and sickle flags? They're still going. They're still
driving
going.
their tractors into town. That was so badass seeing all them on their fucking tractors. Like, yeah.
Oh my God. Let's see if I can find that footage actually. When they stormed Delhi with the tractors, that was fucking epic.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just searched Storm Delhi with tractors.
And there it was.
And there it was. All right, hold on. Let me screen share. I might want to unmute it, huh?
That would help.
Stormed the Red Fort. They did put up some religious flags. Let's just take a look at what happened there.
We have now come to Red Fort, and the situation here is not good. We can see here protesters are storming the barricades that are being put up here. They are beating them, they're trying to bring them down. And the camera can pan around, you can see the protesters are milling around here. Many of them are carrying lathis and other forms of
Security forces are nowhere to be seen. This isn't the video that we watched at the time, but
No, that one was like a shit ton of tractors driving towards the Capitol, but that's okay. This is still good coverage too.
Yeah. So there is something that I saved for international news, even though it's taking place within the borders of the United States, because I'm referring to indigenous struggles. And, well, it's important to remember that we're on indigenous land, regardless of where we live on this continent.
Right.
The Line 3 protests have been escalating, I guess you could say. Hold on. Let me pause this music. But Unicorn Riot, as always, has had some pretty good coverage. There's been Native American leaders of these movements fighting for humanity by literally chaining themselves to this equipment. But I think this is probably going to be what I wrap it up on. Once again, if that's cool with you guys, but I always try to amplify, say Black voices when we're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, or the movement for Black Lives, as I prefer to call it, to get rid of the stigma of the Black Lives Matter organization versus the movement itself. But I think that when we're talking about water struggles, or we're talking about fights against pipelines, the first people that we should be listening to are the indigenous people that have lived here for thousands of years. Treaty rights are being violated to run these fucking pipelines for oil that we don't need.
Right.
So I'm gonna make this full screen here, and then I'm gonna screen share. There we go. Shaboom.
Tabiki Gisa Skijikwe, Nindishnakas, Nagachiwanang, and Dunjiba, Megazida Autumn. My name's Tasia Martineau. I'm 28 years old. I come from the Fond du Lac Reservation, and I stand in opposition of the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline because at home I have 3 beautiful Indigenous daughters and 1 strong son. When corporations like Enbridge build pipelines such as Line 3, Line 4, Line 5, or even Energy Transfer Partners with the Dakota Access Pipeline, the increase of violence against Indigenous women in the communities along these routes increased by 22%. Before that 22% increase, my young daughters already faced the statistics of being 1 in 3. Before the age of 15, 1 in 3 Indigenous women are raped, go missing, or end up murdered by an intimate partner, family member, acquaintance, or friend. You know, when you get these companies who come in with thousands of out-of-state workers in these small communities, oftentimes there are work hiatuses where they're sitting in these hotels with a lot of time and money in their pockets. Some of them are going to go try to find a girl or a boy. So we need to be moving away from our fossil fuel addiction. We need to be moving towards a just transition. We need to understand that we are in the time of the 7th fire. And in order for us to move forward into the 8th fire, a world of peace and prosperity, we need to go back. We need to move away from all of the comforts and the luxuries that we have today and be willing to be uncomfortable so that one day our children and their children after them can continue to live this life in a good way, can continue to gather wild rice, gather berries, hunt the deer in this area, fish these rivers. If we don't do that, none of us will be here long. It's not an Indigenous fight. We are literally in the fight for humanity. Line 3 is the dying gasps of the oil industry, and they know it, and that's why they're so desperate. They are screaming, they are terrified, and all of that noise means nothing in the face of the voice of our ancestors calling out for us to wake up and remember. If you weren't at Standing Rock, and that's a regret in your heart, you should get here. You know, you as an individual are everything good that your ancestors brought to this place. And we need you here on the front line to stand with us today for a future for your grandchildren too.
Thank you to Unicorn Riot for that footage. But even more so, thank you to the people that are actually out there. And I mean, you heard her. They need people out there. Anyway, to address the comments July 24th, March for Medicare for All. It's in dozens of cities at this point. Google it, March for Medicare for All. See if there's one in your city. If there's not, start one. We need solidarity, and we need huge fucking turnout. If we want to use these marches as a means to really force Medicare for All on the powers that be, then we need turnout that they can't deny, turnout that they can't ignore in mainstream media. But if you are anywhere in the Midwest or anywhere really, and you're not currently working and you have the means to get around, whether that be by bus, rail, or your own private vehicle, go out to Minnesota. Stand in solidarity with our Indigenous comrades. Let's put a stop to this pipeline. That's all I got.
I'm curious, is there an update yet on the situation with Line 5? Because that's going right through the straits there at Mackinac Island. That thing was built in 1953 and it's been crumbling for quite some time. There's so much damage to it from ships dragging their anchors across the top of it going through there. It's got multiple damage points, which is why our governor here in Michigan has been pushing for shutting it down. It's absolutely decrepit at this point. But I haven't seen anything in the last week or so about any updates. So I'm curious where that's gone with her literally bringing lawsuit against the oil company. Yeah. Like, I hope that shit gets shut down, you know. And I've heard people around here trying to say, oh, that's going to hurt our gas prices at the pump. No, it's not. The only thing Line 5 is carrying is, at least as far as what it's supplying to Michigan, is liquid gas for making propane with. It ain't gonna have shit to do with your car. Might have something to do with your stove. But there's other ways that we can transport it and source it rather than pumping it through underneath the Great Lakes where it's just likely to end up breaking and leaking everywhere. Because there is raw crude oil being carried on there too, but that's going elsewhere to be processed. But that would be a fucking mess. And that's an understatement. If this line breaks, it needs to be removed.
And I know that the state had moved to do that, and I know that it was approved by the courts and that Enbridge was fighting it, but I haven't heard an update in a while. Because they were already supposed to have ceased pumping oil through it, according to the court ruling.
Yeah, they were ordered to, but they were refusing to. So actually, give me a second. I'm going to see if there's an update. There's notes here that a Line 5 rupture in the Straits of Mackinac would impact 700 miles of Great Lakes shoreline.
And just to put that in perspective, Michigan has more mileage of coastline than Florida or California.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. And, you know, people who want to bitch about, well, what about the jobs on the line? Nah, I don't give a shit. You know how many jobs it would cost people who, you know,
Keystone
work
XL
on
is only going to be 17 full-time jobs after the construction. Line 3 is
Right.
only going to be about that number too. Those 17 people can get a job somewhere else.
Right. Because if, you know, if this causes any problems like that, that's going to affect the jobs of thousands of Michigan residents who work in our DNR, maintaining these shorelines and stuff like that. This would be horrific to do to one of not only our greatest natural resources that we need for survival, but that's a big part of what even draws people to Michigan in the summertime is our shorelines. People come here and That's a huge part of our economy, is what they spend going to these state parks, what they spend going to these campgrounds, what they spend because they want to experience our gorgeous shorelines. And that's a lot more jobs than the handful of people that would be handling Line 5 still. But, they don't want to hear about that when they're bitching about, but what about our oil jobs? Like, I don't care if you work for Enbridge, you should already be questioning yourself as to why. And maybe you should get the fuck out of this dirty industry and get trained in a new job in the energy vicinity and go start working on some green shit.
So
That's just my opinion.
Jason said people vacation in Michigan. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's waterfalls and mountains in the UP. There's forests all over both peninsulas, and there's over 1,000 miles of shoreline.
Yeah.
Most of it international.
It's and it's gorgeous. I'm yet to visit any part of our shoreline that isn't, a beautiful place to actually experience.
Yeah, I mean, even the Detroit River has its beauty.
It's beautiful. Dude, I've sailed the Detroit River and it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Fucking beautiful views. I'd like to keep it that way. Matter of fact, I'd like to improve it even more and clean up even some of the mess that's there, even just from people's personal boats. Like, we sure as shit don't need an oil line going through there. I'm seeing here that on May 14th, they were reporting the eviction notice being served, but I'm not seeing anything updated in the last couple of weeks as far as what's developed, because that fight's been going back and forth. But, fuck Enbridge. They should have been shut down long ago already because of how many problems they have caused in the environment. There's no excuse for us allowing businesses to continue to operate when they literally pose a threat to life itself. No excuse for it. Like she said, the commodities and the comfort that brings to make life easy, that doesn't make life easier if it's going to end life. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Find other means to produce your energy. Well,
I mean, even in terms of air conditioning, we need to step away from the refrigerant-based systems that we've been using and look more into heat sinks. Holy fuck.
Absolutely. There's much
we might not be
ways.
we might not be using Freon anymore, but we're still using forever chemicals. It's not much better.
It's still a contaminant.
Jason said punch Nazis. Into that?
Yes.
I say
fuck
yes.
All about that.
So I guess I'm going to just start trying to wrap this up. Does anybody have anything else that they want to plug or throw out? Or actually, I do. The Pullman strike piece that we released yesterday. It's available on Facebook, YouTube, and podcast platforms.
Yesterday was Sunday. Oh my God. I'm forgetting what day it is again. Don't mind me.
We're all over social media. If you want to email us, I guess you can do that for wearemanypodcast@gmail.com. We are for We Are Many Podcast on YouTube, for We Are Many Podcast on Instagram, for We Are Many 2 on Twitter. And we have our education and discussion group and our mutual aid organizing group, as well as the For We Are Many page. And once again, I'm going to plug our Black Panther piece, our Revolutionary Left Book Club. There we go. That's the second title. This week will be part 7 in Bobby Seale's Seize the Time, the story of the Black Panther Party. The last time we got a little down a couple rabbit holes with Jason coming on in the middle of the screen, but I'm not complaining about it. That was really cool.
Right, and that was
was related,
to be able
but,
to discuss how to bring those things into the present and put those ideals into action now, too, you know.
Yes.
That's one of my, you know, biggest enjoyments, I guess I could say. The things I derive joy from include knowledge, and to be able to learn how the Black Panthers went about putting into place that 10-point plan and putting it into action. It's motivating, it's inspiring to show us what we can do to grow with that, to build on that, to continue that fight, and actually fucking, you know, win some legal ground when it comes to human rights across the board. It's beautiful. So, like, anytime we can draw those parallels there and be able to go, okay, this is something we can do now, all for it, you know. That's kind of the point of learning about this, so we can see where we can grow from here. Damn, do I love reading Bobby Seale.
Same.
Just-
We'll probably also be pre-recording another historical piece or something along those lines this week. I'm not sure if it's going to follow in the Deb's footsteps. Actually, we did talk about doing the Socialist Party. We haven't done that one yet.
We could throw that one out there this week then. We were still tossing ideas around. Yeah. Right
And
now.
there's just so many strikes. When we first started doing this thing, I thought we were going to have a handful of strikes to talk about. But holy shit, man. We've been a rebellious people for fucking hundreds of years.
Right. And it's beautiful. And again, every one of these incidents that we delve into, there's a lot to be taken from, to learn from, of like, okay, here's where they did absolutely amazing. Here's some things that didn't go so amazing that we can learn from and do differently to fix. And again, grow from there. Because, you know, the older I get, the more people I see being radicalized more towards Marxist thought. And it's because they're registering, like, wait a minute, after, you know, literally seeing the marks of capitalism on their body for so many years, they're going, wait a minute, this is fucked, I'm being exploited. And so to understand where we come from, it's incremental to see where we need to go with that to be able to fix these issues today. And I'll leave it at that. Knowledge is power.
Amen to that. I thought this was going to be instrumental, but it's totally not. It's DMCA free though, so at least it won't be copyright infringement.
That works. We don't own the rights to that music, I don't think. No.
I don't think.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm not even sure what song you're playing, so I don't know. It could have been one from your other band.
Oh no, it was just from a DMCA free playlist.
Right on.
Anyway, I hope to see all of you Thursday night. Also, you know, search for us on your favorite podcast platform. You know,
Hell yeah.
Catch up if you haven't started the Black Panther series yet. You got a few days. You know, the episodes are usually about 90 minutes apiece. You know.
Yeah. And hey, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and you must be, because y'all keep coming back for more of these 3-hour tours, please click the share button on the event pages or on the posters that we have going around right now. They're all on our pages and in our groups. And share the word with your friends about the streams that we're doing. Invite them to come join us for Thursday nights or next Monday. Please help share the word.
Speaking of which, when we're doing these streams, if you know something that's going on in some part of the country that we haven't talked about, or some part of the world even that we haven't talked about, let us know.
Right.
You know, like, especially if there's something going on in your town, you know, there's an autonomous zone that's popping up, or there's some mutual aid going on, go down there and get some footage and get some interviews with people and send it to us. We will gladly platform any of that.
Right. That's part of what we set out to do here from the beginning, is to amplify the voices of others. So by all means, any coverage that you want to bring to the table, we will share it.
Yeah. If you're trying to organize your workplace, shit, tell us about it. You know?
Right.
Speaking
Right,
of which,
you know.
solidarity and organize your workplace.
Fucking A.
All right. I guess we can shut up and let you guys go to sleep now.
Right. Have a good night. We love you. Thank you for joining us again. You fucking rock.